I turned my everyday skills into divine powers. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51, The Youngest Swordsmith. The sword forging department sealed Wei Yi's sword into a sword case and affixed a seal. They were ready to rush it to the Military Equipment Bureau in the capital for final inspection. But the round trip, plus the time for inspection there, would take at least 5 or 6 days to get the results. But Wei Yi was not in a hurry, as he was confident he could afford to wait for a few days. Before leaving, Suhi, the envoy of the department, and a group of clerks came to see Wei Yi out. Their attitude was polite, as if they were seeing off their immediate superior. They knew very well that, even if Wei Yi did not succeed this time, he would eventually become a 5th rank swordsmith. He might even end up as an engineer in the Military Equipment Bureau, and he was so young that he had unlimited possibilities in the future. Such talents naturally needed to be connected. Wei Yi left the sword forging department in Du Jiang's carriage. On the way back, Du Jiang also asked Wei Yi what his plans were after becoming a 5th rank swordsmith. I'm not considering becoming a construction official. I used to love a career in government, but the complexities of the imperial court and the capital are too complex these days. I think being a freelance craftsman is more comfortable, Wei Yi said with a smile. He didn't want to leave King's House City. He didn't want to give up the connections he'd worked so hard to build here. Besides, he wanted to open a winery and a restaurant with Meng Shulian and Jiuo Pixiu. Why don't you reconsider joining Wanjian Pavilion and officially join us? With your status as a 5th rank swordsmith, I can directly recommend you to become second in command. After a year of experience, I'll give you my position. Joining us won't impose any significant restrictions on you. Aside from not being able to work with other sword shops, it's not much different from a cooperative model. You'll also enjoy many generous benefits. For example, the main pavilion will provide you with warriors to protect you, help you purchase a mansion, and receive annual dividends. Du Jiang began to woo Wei Yi again. After all, who wouldn't want to have such talent under his wing? Okay, give me some time to think about it, Wei Yi said with a smile. He was indeed tempted by the offers Du Jiang had described. However, with his own efforts, he could easily afford a mansion in King's House City and hire warriors to protect him. Deep down, he didn't want to be completely tied to any particular faction. But don't worry about it. You're free to make whatever choice you want. I, Du Jiang, will always be your friend. That won't change, Du Jiang said sincerely. While his words might sound like moral coercion, Wei Yi knew Du Jiang didn't mean that. He had interacted with Du Jiang many times and could tell he was a generous and loyal man. So, as he said, even if he didn't choose to join the Wanjian Pavilion, he wouldn't blame him. Seeing Wei Yi enter the courtyard, Wei King immediately ran over excitedly. Brother, how's it going? Did it work? Almost, but the sword has been sent to the Ordnance Bureau. We need to wait for the final test results. They should have the results in a while, Wei Yi said with a smile, his eyes brimming with confidence. Well, I think it'll be no problem, brother, Wei King said with a sweet smile. Big brother, let me show you the sword I forged. Shitao also ran over excitedly. Holding a precious sword, he presented it to Wei Yi, his eyes filled with anticipation. Wei Yi took the sword, examined it carefully, and couldn't help but be surprised. This Shitao was indeed born for blacksmithing. He really is gifted. This sword is forged very well. Judging by the appearance, even if it's not 9th grade, it's already a very good sword. I'm afraid it's even slightly better than the swords forged by second uncle in the past. Of course, this is also due to his careful instruction over this period of time, imparting many valuable techniques to him. Very good, Shitao. This sword is forged very well. Big brother will teach you well over the next few days. I think in a while, you too will become a 9th grade swordsmith. Wei Yi rubbed Shitao's head and said with a smile. Really? Shitao looked at Wei Yi in surprise. Those eyes, which had once seemed somewhat dull, now brightened with a rare sparkle. Of course, Big Brother said he would train you to become the youngest 9th rank swordsmith. Wei Yi affirmed. Yes, Thank you, big brother. I'll definitely work hard. Later, I'll make money for you. Shitao said seriously. Hearing Shitao's words, Wei Yi smiled knowingly, feeling quite warmed. After all he had been through, Shitao seemed to be slowly growing more mature. Okay, you'll be the pillar of the family from now on. Wei Yi patted Shitao's shoulder. Well, with me here, big brother won't have to work so hard. Shitao smiled, his smile never brighter than it had been. He bounded back to the smithy and resumed his sword forging practice. Brother, was that true? Wei King asked curiously. Of course, he's almost a 9th rank swordsmith. Hearing Wei Yi's words, Wei King looked at Shitao in surprise, then at Wei Yi. But considering Wei Yi was on the verge of becoming a 5th rank swordsmith, it seemed only natural that he could train a 9th rank swordsmith. By the way, brother, Master Guo came this morning. He said he's found a suitable brewery and has already agreed on a price. The location isn't far from a house, and I'll discuss it with you when you get back, Wei King said sternly. Pretty quick. Okay, I got it. Wei Yi instructed the guards to notify Guo Pixiu, while he himself, along with 2 guards, headed for the Meng residence. On the way, passing Xiangmen Lao, Wei Yi stopped to see that the seal had been removed. The signboard and flag had also been taken down, and the gates were closed, creating a desolate scene. Upon arriving at the Meng residence, Wei Yi met Meng Shulian. He also learned that Wan Zai had visited the house the day before yesterday, but had been turned away by her. Guo Pixiu had assigned numerous guards to the Meng residence, so Wan Zai didn't dare to act rashly. He simply uttered a harsh word and left in a huff. Consequently, Xiangmen Lao had now been completely expelled from the guild, barring any further operation. But Meng Shulian wasn't sad, for she believed that Xiangmen Lao would eventually become a legitimate restaurant again. It would surely regain its former glory. Come on, let's sit down at my house. Guo Pixiu will be here soon, and we can discuss the winery together. Wei Yi said. Okay, wait a minute, I'll get the recipe. Meng Shulian ran into the house and reappeared a short time later, holding a mahogany box. She handed it to Wei Yi. The Lansheng wine recipe is now in your hands. Aren't you afraid I'll run away with it? Wei Yi joked. Anyway, we in the Meng family don't have anything to lose. Meng Shulian said with a smile. After adversity comes good times, and all that remains is the harvest. Wei Yi said. Meng Shulian and Wei Yi left the house together, heading towards Wei Yi's home. Following Wei Yi, Meng Shulian felt the once bustling streets become quiet. It was as if the entire world was just the two of them. The streets, once bleak with the autumn wind, were now filled with flowers, as if a spring breeze had swept through them. Thanks to the digital book friends for the 100 Kidian coins, and thank you all for your monthly tickets. Chapter 50 to Brewery. Not long after Wei Yi returned home, Guo Pixiu arrived. He immediately took Wei Yi and Meng Shulian with him to the brewery he had his eye on. The brewery was still operating, but it was running out of money, and the owner was selling it. The brewery had all the necessary equipment, a brewmaster, and a staff. There was still plenty of grain in the warehouse, and a large amount of liquor in the cellar, all of which he was ready to sell. After some bargaining with the owner, Meng Shulian finally agreed on a price of 400 taels of silver. They arranged to sign the contract the next day. By the time Wei Yi, Meng Shulian, and Guo Pixiu returned from the brewery, it was already evening. Guo Pixiu shamelessly suggested they spend the evening at Wei Yi's house to celebrate their upcoming acquisition of the brewery. He simply wanted a free meal. After all, after trying Wei Yi's cooking, everyone else's seemed unpalatable. Alright, since you're so shameless, let's celebrate together tonight. Wei Yi said with a smile. Haha, I'll go buy some wine. Guo Pixiu cheered happily and immediately left with his 4 followers. After dinner, Meng Shulian rode home in Guo Pixiu's carriage. Wei Yi, on the other hand, returned to his room and began to carefully study the Lansheng wine brewing recipe. To quickly memorize the recipe and master the brewing process, Wei Yi began copying the recipe. After all, this would enhance his pen and ink aura. It would also leverage the magical power of pen and ink to help him digest and understand the content as quickly as possible, mastering the art of brewing. Sure enough, after copying it twice, the recipe was firmly in his mind. He had mastered the techniques so skillfully that he had absorbed them into his mind as if they were already his own. At the same time, Wei Yi discovered that a new skill had appeared in his system interface. Brewing skill, level 3, upgrade not yet started, it's already level 3. It seems the brewing technique for Lansheng wine is truly advanced, Wei Yi thought to himself. Lansheng wine's brewing utilizes distillation technology, and it uses 2 distillation steps. This is probably considered quite advanced across the entire Great Yan dynasty. Therefore, once he mastered this brewing technique, he immediately reached level 3. However, because he hadn't yet begun actual brewing, he hadn't gained proficiency and begun upgrading. After thoroughly mastering the Lansheng wine brewing technique, Wei Yi burned his copied recipe, retaining only Meng Shulian's original copy. Wei Yi believed that, while the Lansheng wine recipe was precious, he believed that, if he unlocked this brewing skill, he would be able to master even better brewing techniques in the future. He might even be able to create a recipe for a nectar, a magical wine. Perhaps I could use that ingenious technique to enhance the wine's aroma. Wei Yi suddenly thought with a flash of inspiration. He felt that his incisive technique was truly comparable to the Midas touch, capable of turning stone into gold. Wei Yi toiled until late at night, honing his writing skills. The night sky was overcast, dark, and windy. The last stubborn, withered leaves on the trees were blown off. Overnight, the world seemed to take on a new dimension of desolation. The next morning, the county yamen received a report that Constable Wang had been murdered in his home. His condition was similar to that of Liu Xiaohu, who had been murdered previously. He had also been tortured and forced to confess before his death. Upon hearing this news, County Magistrate Zheng's face darkened, his expression filled with panic. He didn't dare to go to the scene, but instead sent the county magistrate, the coroner, and other detectives. He then summoned his personal bodyguard, Zhu Qiang, to his study. I was right. This guy's likely here for the bride case, and his next target could very well be me, Zheng Kang said nervously. Although he had previously heard of Si Yuiming's disappearance, and had a vague sense of what was going on, and had made preparations, he remained terrified. After all, he didn't know what kind of enemy he was facing. The unknown is always the most terrifying. Sir, weren't all the people in the capital investigating this case purged? Now that even the Zuanjing division no longer exists, who would pursue this case again? Zhu Qiang's eyes were filled with thought. Yeah, I can't understand it either. It's been so long. Why are people still holding on to this? Zheng Kang shook his head solemnly. Then he said, go, get my badge, and go to Yuxin Lao. Wei Yi had also heard about the murder of the county magistrate's chief constable early in the morning. He guessed it was the work of that Shamat again. He hadn't expected that after such a long absence, this guy would reappear. And he immediately killed the county magistrates. I don't know what this guy is investigating, and he's even targeting the government. I'm afraid he's going to get into trouble this time. Wei Yi thought to himself. He was genuinely nervous for the Shamat. He knew full well that in this world, officials wouldn't investigate unless the people reported him. If you killed a commoner, the government would investigate, but they wouldn't give it their all. But if you killed someone in the government, it was a different story. Challenging authority would definitely lead to big trouble. This case was likely to get out of hand. That morning, Guo Pixiu and Meng Shulian arrived at Wei Yi's house as scheduled. To purchase the winery, Wei Yi contributed 300 taels, and Guo Pixiu contributed 100. Meng Shulian contributed technology, with Wei Yi and Meng Shulian each holding 40% and Guo Pixiu 20%. The three of them drafted a cooperation agreement, signed it, and then went to the winery together. With the sale and purchase agreement signed, the winery was officially theirs. Haha, this place is ours from now on. Can we get started today? Guo Pixiu said excitedly. Not yet. The equipment in this distillery isn't up to snuff for Lansheng liquor. It needs some renovations. Later, go to the construction bank and find some craftsmen to build the equipment according to my drawings, Wei Yi said solemnly. Okay, I'll be there. Guo Pixiu immediately left the distillery with his 4 followers. Guo Pixiu quickly recruited craftsmen, and under Wei Yi's guidance, they began renovating the distillery according to his drawings. Wei Yi asked Guo Pixiu to stay and oversee the work, while he and Meng Shulian prepared to return. But just then, several people entered the distillery, led by none other than Wanzai. Upon seeing Wanzai enter, Guo Pixiu angrily shouted, "Get out! Who let you in? My father is the head of the distillery. Isn't it okay for me to come and see the new distillery on his behalf?" Wanzai said coldly, "Why should you look? I've already joined the guild and got the license. What the hell are you looking at?" Guo Pixiu said angrily. He had gone to great lengths to apply for a winery license from the guild, all because of Wanzai's obstruction. If he hadn't asked his uncle Zule to personally intervene, he probably wouldn't have gotten it done. So, the sight of Wanzai irritated him. Wanzai glared coldly at Guo Pixiu, then at Wei Yi and Meng Shulian. He couldn't understand how these people had gotten together. He hadn't anticipated Meng Shulian collaborating with Guo Pixiu and Wei Yi. His efforts had been in vain. "Didn't you hear me? Get out!" Guo Pixiu shouted, unsheathing the sword from his waist. "Guo Pixiu, do you know why so many wineries in the city have gone bankrupt?" Wanzai continued. "How dare you say that? It's all because of your one family's suppression." Guo Pixiu snorted coldly. "My one family isn't that powerful." Guo Pixiu, don't blame me for not warning you. The true mastermind behind this city's liquor business is someone neither you nor I can afford to offend. If you infringe on that noble's interests, even your father won't be able to protect you." Wanzai sneered. "Who are you trying to scare? Stop your alarmist rhetoric. Go wherever's cooler. I don't need you crying wolf over me. Take your dog and get out of here." Guo Pixiu cursed. His business had just taken off, and this guy was pouring cold water on it. It was really annoying. If murder wasn't illegal, he would have killed him right now. "Well, then, we'll see." Wanzai glanced coldly at Guo Pixiu, Wei Yi, and Meng Shulian, then turned and walked out of the liquor shop. Chapter 53, Is this forging iron? This son of a bitch is incompetent at everything he does. He's the worst offender. I'll put up a sign at the door saying dogs and Wanzai are not allowed entry. Guo Pixiu said angrily. "Yeah, good idea," Wei Yi said with a smile. Guo Pixiu's words reminded him. He could actually write Wanzai as not allowed entry on the door with a 3-point penetration. Although using this 3-point penetration method to curse and kill others would bring karma and retribution, it would still be okay to make some rules and restrictions to disgust him. In fact, Wei Yi also wanted to get rid of Wanzai, but killing him would bring karma and retribution to himself, which would not be worth the loss. People like Wanzai, who do too much evil, will eventually destroy themselves. Sooner or later, someone will take his life. Hey, those who do too much evil will eventually perish. That's a good saying. If I get the chance someday, I'll write something like this on his belongings. It shouldn't be a curse, nor a violation of heaven's will, but rather a compliance with heaven's will. Not bad. Wei Yi thought to himself, a smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. Xianlu, I'll leave this to you. We'll be heading back, Wei Yi said, and immediately left the brewery with Meng Shulian. Returning home, Wei Yi set to work forging a 5-bead sword for himself. He also continued to teach stone ironsmithing. In fact, Hulin and Sun Fu's ironsmithing skills had also improved significantly under Wei Yi's guidance. He was reserved, however, regarding some heat treatment techniques. After all, they were outsiders. Within Kingshao City, nestled in an elegant manner on the shores of West Lake, this was a lakeside villa belonging to the Jingan Prince's palace. Today, Zhao Jinsi hosted a gathering of scholars. Joining the city's young scholars, Zhao Jinsi enjoyed tea, the scenery, and the appreciation of calligraphy and painting. They composed poems and exchanged ideas on the autumn scenery of West Lake. Listening to the poems, Zhao Jinsi was reminded of the poem, "After being drunk, I don't know where the sky is and the water, and my boat is filled with clear dreams, which overshadow the stars." While he didn't know which lake the daunting lake in that poem refers to, he imagined it closely resembled the West Lake scene before him. The autumn wind ruffled the surface of the lake, and the distant wood seemed bleak, like the wrinkles on the face and the falling hair of an aging person. Yet, in such a bleak and desolate environment, he was able to create such a beautiful imagery as a boat filled with clear dreams, which overshadow the stars. This demonstrates the poet's optimism, his love of life, and his romanticism. Even amidst the melancholy and sorrow of autumn, he still managed to discover the touches of romance and tenderness in life. Compared to that poem, the poems of the crowd pale in comparison. The lost and found notice has been posted for ages, but no one has claimed it. I wonder if the owner of the purse is just passing through this city, perhaps having already left, Xiao Jinsi pondered. She desperately wanted to find the owner of the purse, the author of the poem. It was a pity that so much time had passed, and yet there was no news. She wondered if she could ever find him again. Thinking of this, Xiao Jinsi couldn't help but feel lost, a sense of loss. She didn't even hear the person next to her calling her. It wasn't until the personal maid gently patted her that she suddenly woke up and came to her senses. "What's the matter? Princess, I heard you sang a beautiful song in your mansion a while ago, Shushiro Jetao. It was so beautiful, with the rhythm of a celestial being and the otherworldly artistic conception, that I'm very curious. I wonder if we'll have the honor of hearing you sing it again today," an elegant scholar said with a polite smile and a bow. The other young men and women nearby also looked at Xiao Jinsi with anticipation. The poem "When Will the Bright Moon Rise" had sparked considerable discussion within the palace, and later spread beyond Prince Jingan's residence. Some even hummed a few lines, but they didn't know the full lyrics and music. Therefore, the scholars present were deeply curious about the poem, and wanted to hear it in its entirety. Seeing the eager gazers, Xiao Jinsi smiled sweetly, but hesitated slightly. Deep down, she longed to share this astonishing work with everyone, but she felt it would be rude to publicly release someone's work without the author's permission. However, she couldn't help herself, and sang "When Will the Bright Moon Rise." Now, the damage was done. She feared she would have to wait until she met the author in person to apologize and seek his forgiveness. Furthermore, Xiao Jinsi felt that, if the author was still in the city, she could spread the poem. Perhaps one day it would reach him, and he might even appear. Xiao Jinsi pondered for a moment, then nodded and said, "Okay, but I must clarify one thing. I didn't write this poem. I stumbled upon it, and inspired by it, I composed it and sang it. The author is likely some reclusive literary master, but unfortunately, I haven't been able to find him yet. If you are fortunate enough to learn who the author is, please let me know." Upon hearing Xiao Jinsi's words, curiosity flared in everyone's eyes. They glanced at each other, whispering quietly. They were even more curious about what kind of poem this was, and how it came to belong to the princess. The story behind it seemed even more fascinating. Xiao Jinsi raised his hand, and a maid immediately brought him a guqin. She sat upright, her jade fingers caressing the instrument, gathering her emotions, and then gently strummed. A moving melody echoed, causing everyone present to calm down and listen quietly. In the Wei family courtyard, after Wei Yi finished burning the materials, he began his own blacksmithing skills. Clang 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 clang. The intensive hammering sounds, like a violent storm, suddenly rang out. The hammer in his hand rose and fell repeatedly at an astonishing speed, hammering the iron frantically. The speed was so fast that it seemed as if after images appeared. The hammer seemed to have lost its weight in his hand, but the sound it made when hammering on the iron was so solid and heavy. Each sound was even louder than the last. This scene stunned Hulin, Sun Fu, and Shitao, who were standing next to him. The guards who were originally chatting in the corner also gathered over and looked at Wei Yi in shock. Even Wei King and Wei Zhu came out of the room curiously. They were also surprised to see that it was Wei Yi who was forging the iron. Oh my god, what kind of terrifying explosive power is this, boss? Can he still forge iron like that? Couldn't boss have become an entry-level warrior? Yeah, it feels like, if this hammer were to hit us, even we wouldn't be able to withstand it. To be able to reach this level of iron working, boss is truly an amazing person. Is this the legendary skill that approaches a Tao? The guards discussed in shock. After this burst of power, Wei Yi paused, panting heavily. After performing this 1,000 hammers technique once again, he needed to pause and recuperate. He also took this opportunity to return the iron, which had been mixed with other ore powders and kneaded, to the furnace to heat and burn. At this moment, Wei Yi suddenly saw many golden points of light appear before his eyes again, one after another merging into his sea of consciousness. On the tree where the brush and ink energy converged, another golden leaf appeared. It appears again. What exactly is this golden point of light? Wei Yi was curious. Chapter 54. Wanzi River and dogs are not allowed to enter. After nearly 3 days, Wei Yi finally forged a 5-beaded sword. This sword's appearance differed from the one he had forged during the assessment. After all, this was a sword forged for himself. Its weight and shape perfectly suited his needs, making it unique. Although it lacked the royal pearl seal, Wei Yi knew that his forged sword was undeniably of 5-bead quality. Besides the Wei seal, he also engraved the characters Yishan, naming it Yishan sword. Furthermore, Wei Yi, with his masterful penetrating skill, expended the energy of half a tree's worth of ink. On the sword, he inscribed, "With the Yishan sword in my hand, I slash the whale, and the sea opens." As he wrote, word by word, the blade vibrated, and the sounds of wind, thunder, and raging waves filled his ears. He felt as if he were transported above the turbulent sea. The sky was thick with dark clouds, and thunder and lightning roared. The sword in his hand reflected thunder, flashing a blinding silver light. The moment the poem was finished, the sword split the sky like lightning, a dragon descending into the sea. With one slash, it carried a tremendous force. With a thunderous roar, the sea water split open, surging in raging waves. The sword's might was unstoppable. A giant whale in the water let out a mournful wail, staining the sea with blood. At the same moment, everything vanished like a mirage. Reality returned, and everything was normal. The sword lay quietly on the desk, but Wei Yi could clearly sense a subtle change. Beyond its apparent sharpness and intimidating aura, it also imbued itself with a certain invisible aura, a kind of sword intent. As he grasped the sword, he seemed to sense its inherent thunderous might, the unstoppable force that would split the sea and slay the whale. Wei Yi felt that when he wielded this sword against an enemy, the mere imbued with the sword's power, like slashing a whale and causing the sea to split open, was enough to send his opponent's legs limp and their bodies shivering. This ingenious technique of penetrating the wood 3 inches deep truly works. This sword imbued with sword power is like an ordinary person imbued with vitality, a complete transformation. With this sword at my disposal, perhaps I could even stand a chance against an ordinary 9th grade warrior, Wei Yi thought. However, Wei Yi also knew that relying solely on the weapon's external power wasn't enough. A forger must be strong within himself. To rise above all others and become a transcendent being in the future, one must possess the aptitude for cultivation. Fortunately, he had now acquired the technique of replenishing the body with the form, which gave him hope. These past few days, he would meditate for 2/4 of an hour after each meal, using this technique to maximize his absorption of the essence of food. Over the course of several days, he felt a noticeable transformation taking place within him. Furthermore, a percentage progress indicator appeared next to the bone aptitude item on the system interface. This proved that this method of repairing form with form could indeed improve one's bone aptitude. Perhaps one day, one could repair oneself to the stature of a great emperor. Furthermore, Wei Yi had been seeing golden spots appearing frequently over the past few days. Previously, they had only appeared during the day, but now they appeared at night as well. Is Brother Wei there? Guo Pixiu's voice suddenly rang from outside the door. Xian Lu, come in. Wei Yi responded. He and Guo Pixiu were now familiar with each other, so they even addressed him by his courtesy name. Brother Wei, the winery has been renovated. Would you like to take a look? Guo Pixiu said with a smile. Okay, let's go. Wei Yi put away his Yishan sword and immediately followed Guo Pixiu to the winery. Upon arriving, Wei Yi saw a wooden sign hanging at the door. It read, in bold, large characters, Wanzi and dogs are not allowed to enter. Unexpectedly, Guo Pixiu actually kept his word. He actually put up a sign by the door. Well done, Wei Yi said with a smile. It might be a little childish, but it's worth promoting. Guo Pixiu chuckled and followed Wei Yi into the brewery. The staff were cleaning the place and the brewery equipment. Wei Yi inspected everything and confirmed that everything met his specifications. Now, work could finally begin. Once everything was clean, Wei Yi began directing the staff as they began the first brewing process. Since the brewery already had soaked grains, they began steaming them directly. As the grains began to cook, Wei Yi noticed his proficiency meter begin to appear, increasing gradually over time. Finally, I can drink Daolan Sheng wine again, Guo Pixiu said happily. While the staff were busy, Wei Yi took a brush from the accounting office and approached the brewery gate. With a delicate touch, he wrote on the door, "One's eye is not allowed to enter." Finishing this sentence consumed another fifth of his ink and brush energy. Now, only 2 small trees remained in his sea of consciousness. Wei Yi had intended to conduct an experiment to see how much ink and brush energy it would take to create a prohibition-like rule. He also wanted to verify whether this method would work. But shortly after Wei Yi re-entered the brewery, Wanzai, accompanied by several followers, stormed over from a distance. He had been keeping an eye on the area for the past few days. Today, he'd heard that Guo Pixiu had hung a sign at the gate insulting him. Furious, he brought his men to settle the score with Guo Pixiu. With a scowl on his face, Wanzai approached the brewery's entrance and saw the sign that read, "Wanzai and dogs are not allowed entry." Gnashing his teeth in anger, he instantly split the wooden sign in half with a single blow of his sword. He then flung open the gate and rushed in. It was as if he'd slammed headfirst into an invisible wall, sending him careening back. He stumbled, and if his attendant hadn't supported him, he would have collapsed to the ground. "Young master, are you alright?" The attendant looked at Wanzai in surprise, wondering what had just happened. Wanzai was also bewildered. He stared at the empty space before him, stunned. There was nothing there, so what had he just bumped into? "It's okay, let's go in." Wanzai straightened himself up, shook his sleeves, and headed for the gate again. This time, however, he slowed down his pace. But as he stepped through the gate, he felt like he had hit a wall, and was repelled again. Shit, what's going on? Wanzai's face darkened. The attendants behind him looked at each other in confusion, unsure of what was happening. "You go in first," Wanzai said to them. They responded and quickly entered the gate unimpeded. At the same time, Guo Pixiu and Wei Yi had also heard the noise and were approaching. Seeing that it was Wanzai who came with his men, he immediately shouted angrily, "Wanzai, are you blind? Can't you see the sign hanging at the door? You and dogs are not allowed to enter. How dare you say that, Guo Pixiu? What do you mean? Are you putting up a sign to disgust me? I insist on coming in today. What's the matter?" Wanzai was furious and was about to rush through the gate. But just as he was about to move forward, he felt a little scared and tested the gate with his hand to make sure there was nothing there. Only then did he put up a serious face again and rushed through the gate, cursing. However, he was once again bounced back by an invisible wall. "Fuck you." Wanzai looked at the gate with a look of horror on his face. Regarding the controversy in the previous chapter, I think it will take up some space, so I will elaborate on it. 1. Regarding the magic method of penetrating into the wood, I have actually written the setting in the previous article. I don't know if you brothers have missed it. In fact, this magic method of penetrating into the wood is equivalent to the protagonist borrowing some of the power of the rules of the Heavenly Dao. If you follow the Heavenly Dao to apply the rules, the price you pay will naturally be small. Otherwise, there will definitely be a price to pay. Wanzai is an evil man, and he will also have his retribution in the Heavenly Dao. The protagonist can kill him with a hammer or a sword, but if you use the power of the Heavenly Dao to kill him, you will naturally suffer backlash too. The protagonist does not want to get rid of Wanzai. I have made it very clear. It's just that using the method of penetrating into the wood to kill Wanzai directly may hurt the enemy by 1,000 and hurt yourself by 800, which is not worth the loss. This has nothing to do with the Virgin Mary, right? What's more, the only way to retaliate against someone is not to kill the other person mindlessly. There are 8 such stories in 10 books on Gideon. Aren't you tired of reading them? Besides outright killing an enemy, wouldn't it be better to take away what they care about most, ruin their reputation, make their life worse than death, and ultimately destroy their entire family? 3. By now, you should be able to sense that this book leans slightly towards the mundane. The early stages lean towards a normal, orderly human society and lifestyle, not a world where everything is done with fists, where you kill me, I kill your whole family, and violence reigns supreme. Just because this book is categorized as fantasy and includes cultivators doesn't mean it's a completely purported world of cultivation. It's also not intended to be overly violent. There may be some clownish characters early on, but think about it, aside from the Liu family wanting the Wei family buried with their son, characters like Wanzai haven't reached a point of vengeance with the protagonist, and he doesn't have his family's warriors kill the protagonist's entire family. Consequently, the conflict gradually escalates due to narrow-mindedness and conflicting interests for. Finally, you might say, if your writing skills can't kill people, then what's the point of watching a game? Don't worry, this is just the beginning. There will be more upgrades later. There will definitely be a killing writing skill later. The writing skill is the most detailed skill path I have set, so don't worry. You can't just let the protagonist be invincible right from the start. And the penetrating skill is more inclined to assist in refining equipment in the later stage and to increase some self-protection power in the present. Finally, thank you to all my brothers and sisters who support me. This book has performed well so far. I also know that more people like to read quietly, vote silently and reward. Your encouragement is felt by the new author. Thank you very much. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55, Killin, the Guardian of the House. The bizarre sight of Wanzai crashing into the wall out of nowhere left Guo Pixiu stunned. Guo Pixiu's followers, as well as Wanzai's followers, were also stunned. Everyone looked at each other, wondering what Wanzai was doing. Young master, what's wrong with you? Wanzai's followers asked in confusion. Damn, is this weird? Wanzai looked as if he had seen a ghost, his face a little embarrassed. He slowly walked to the door and reached out to touch it. There was clearly nothing, but why did he always feel like he had bumped into something? Give me a hand, Wanzai said, holding out his hand. Several followers immediately grabbed Wanzai's hands, trying to pull him from the outside into the courtyard. However, as Wanzai passed through the gate, he seemed to be stuck in place, unable to move forward. The guard was surprised and immediately increased his strength, pulling Wanzai's body out of shape. Stop, stop, stop. My arm's gonna break. Wanzai screamed in agony. Seeing this, Guo Pixiu's face turned even darker with surprise. But amidst his surprise, he burst into laughter. Wanzai, see. Even the heavens dislike you. Dogs and you are forbidden to enter. You are forbidden to enter. Wei Yi, watching from the side, couldn't help but laugh. He thought to himself that this ingenious method of penetrating the wood was truly effective. It was like a restriction set by an immortal. If you're not allowed to enter, you simply can't enter. But Wei Yi also knew that this was also due to Wanzai's limited cultivation. A top martial artist or cultivator would probably be able to forcibly break such a restriction. Wanzai, there's a dog hole in the corner over there. Do you want to come through there? Guo Pixiu continued his barrage. Wanzai's face turned pale with anger at Guo Pixiu's words. But he was speechless. Today was truly bizarre. Why can't I even get through the main gate? Others can get through, but I can't. Could it be that I've encountered a ghost in broad daylight? His face turned even uglier when he thought of ghosts. He was most afraid of ghosts. He couldn't help but think of the legend about ghost walls, and suddenly a chill went down his spine, and he took a few steps back. Guo Pixiu, you wait. Let's go, Wanzai said fiercely. He immediately turned around and hurried away in 2 steps, as if he was running away. Watching Wanzai's embarrassed escape, Guo Pixiu felt so happy. He had never felt so relieved. In the past, Wanzai had always laughed at him, teased him, and always surpassed him. But Guo Pixiu was also a little puzzled. Why couldn't Wanzai get through the gate? Could it really be because of that sign he had hung? Guo Pixiu walked to the gate and touched it, then walked out and back again, finding nothing unusual. What happened to Wanzai just now? Yeah, that's really strange. That guy doesn't seem to be pretending, does he? Guo Pixiu's 4 followers also arrived at the gate. They looked at the gate curiously, but also saw nothing unusual. They were puzzled. Cut off my sign, and I'll hang a bigger one. If you get angry, I'll just erect a tombstone for you. Guo Pixiu said, picking up the broken wooden sign from the ground. Xian Lu, there's no need to hang the sign. For the next period of time, you must send someone to guard this place, to prevent one's eye from playing dirty tricks. The Wan family has all kinds of shady tricks. They set fire to the Meng family's winery back then. Wei Yi said sternly. Well, don't worry, brother Wei. He wouldn't dare. This winery is my lifeblood. If the Wan family dares to burn it down, I'll set fire to their house. Guo Pixiu said seriously. But he also knew he had to be on guard. After all, the Wan family was quite dangerous. By the way, take someone to buy a stone lion immediately. Wei Yi added. He could actually carve a stone lion himself, but he didn't have the time right now. What for? Guo Pixiu asked, a little surprised. A Killin or a Pixiu would be fine. They'll protect the house. Wei Yi said. Oh, I see. Guo Pixiu suddenly understood. He immediately left the winery with his 4 attendants, who were all good at talking, learning, and singing. Not long after, Guo Pixiu returned to the winery with a large group of people, driving a carriage. The carriage pulled a majestic and imposing Killin statue. However, the surface was a little patinated, not like a newly carved stone statue. It looked like it had been moved from someone's mansion. Brother Wei, take a look at this Killin. I brought the Killin statue from our front door, Guo Pixiu said with a smile. Aren't you afraid your father will beat you? Wei Yi was a bit amused. It's okay. My father hasn't been home lately. I'll buy another one and put it back later, Guo Pixiu said with a smile. Where do you think it would be suitable? Guo Pixiu asked again. Right in the center of the courtyard, Wei Yi said. Guo Pixiu immediately directed everyone to place the Killin statue in the center of the courtyard. Wei Yi, holding a brush, walked over to the Killin statue and once again used his incisive technique, mobilizing the energy of his brush and ink. He wrote 4 words on the Killin's forehead. Avoid disasters and avoid misfortunes. For a moment, Wei Yi felt as if a roar echoed in his ears. Then, the shadow of an enormous Killin auspicious beast materialized. The massive figure, like a small mountain, enveloped the entire brewery courtyard. It worked. Wei Yi rejoiced. He felt he had found the correct way to use the 3-point penetration technique. Now with this Killin statue, the Wan family would likely be unable to harm their brewery. However, after using the 3-point penetration technique again, the ink and brush energy in Wei Yi's sea of consciousness was reduced to a small sapling, covered with golden leaves. Brother Wei, what are you doing? Guo Pixiu looked at Wei Yi curiously. Bless him. Wei Yi said with a smile. You also have this skill? Brother Wei, I'm multi-talented, isn't it? Yes, I believe it. Guo Pixiu nodded seriously. Over the next few days, under the direction of Wei Yi and Meng Shulian, the brewery staff gradually mixed the steamed grains with the koji. Then the fermentation process began. In fact, most of the time, it was Meng Shulian who directed the work in the brewery, while Wei Yi was simply using the experience. After all, as the only descendant of the Meng family, Meng Shulian naturally inherited her father's true teachings. So, as the fermentation began, Wei Yi rarely visited the winery. After all, the order for swords from the Wanjian pavilion hadn't been fulfilled yet. Therefore, Wei Yi spent most of his time leading the blacksmiths in forging swords, while continuing to teach Shitao. Once Shitao became a 9th grade swordsmith, he could completely hand over the forging of the 1-jewel sword to Shitao. After all, the proficiency gained from forging a 1-jewel sword was far less than forging a 5-jewel sword himself. That morning, after an hour of exercise, Wei Yi successfully reached the advanced level in his fitness skills. However, he didn't rush to upgrade, preferring to save it for nighttime sleep, to avoid wasting time during the day. After breakfast, Wei Yi continued teaching Shitao how to heat-treat swords. He felt Shitao was close to completing his apprenticeship. Wei Yi, is young Master Wei here? A voice suddenly called from the courtyard gate. Wei Yi looked up and saw that it was Suhi, the envoy of the sword forging department, who walked in with Haodong. Thanks to Zibeopingfan for the 600 starting coins, and thank you all for your monthly tickets. Chapter 56. The result is out. Seeking follow-up reading. Young Master Wei, your test results are out. Congratulations, congratulations. You've successfully passed the 5th grade swordsmith exam. From today on, you're a 5th grade swordsmith, Suhi said with a beaming smile. Upon hearing Suhi's words, Wei Yi smiled, but he wasn't overly excited. After all, he'd already expected this result. On the other hand, Shi Tao, standing nearby, flushed with excitement, trying to suppress it. He immediately ran into the house and told Wei King and Wei Zushi the news. Hulin, Sun Fu, and the guards in the courtyard were also astonished. But despite their surprise, they also felt it was only natural. After all, they had witnessed Wei Yi's incredible blacksmithing skills a few days earlier. They were truly astonished. Upon hearing Shi Tao's good news, Wei King and Wei Zushi also rushed out of the room, their faces filled with surprise and excitement. Wei Yi had told them that he was almost certain to pass the 5th grade swordsmith exam. But now, having heard the confirmed news, he naturally couldn't contain his joy. Thank you, Lord Su, for coming here in person. I'm sorry for not welcoming you. Wei Yi greeted him, bowing and offering a polite greeting. Young Master Wei, you're welcome. I was so excited after receiving this news that I couldn't help but come and congratulate you. Young Master Wei is truly incredibly talented, having achieved a 5th rank swordsmith at such a young age. This is rare in the history of our great Yan dynasty and truly astonishes us. Suhi praised him effusively. After all, he was truly thrilled that King's House City had produced such a genius. He had the privilege of witnessing Wei Yi's rise first and witnessing this miracle. When Wei Yi first arrived at the sword forging division to take the exam, who could have imagined that a frail scholar like him would one day become a 5th rank swordsmith? And what's more, just over a month after becoming a 9th rank swordsmith, he would skip directly to the 7th rank. He became one of the few 5th rank swordsmiths in the great Yan dynasty. This talent is truly astonishing and admirable. Lord Su, you are too kind. I'm unworthy of your praise, Wei Yi said modestly. By the way, I have brought you the royal seal and waist badge. I will ask Hao Dong to help you register here later. Suhi looked at Hao Dong beside him. The other party immediately presented the royal seal and the 5th rank swordsmith waist badge to Wei Yi respectfully. Thank you, Lord Su. Thank you, Lord Hao. In addition, the Military Equipment Bureau gave you an A grade, and Lord Wang of the Military Equipment Bureau is very optimistic about you. He sent someone to ask if you are willing to join the Military Equipment Bureau. As long as you can pass the written test, you can become an engineer officer of the Military Equipment Bureau. With the talent of Master Wei, you will definitely have a bright future. Suhi said with a smile. Lord Wang, thank you for your kindness. Lord Su will also have to thank you for your appreciation later. However, I, Wei Yi, do not wish to be an official at the moment, nor do I wish to leave King's House City, so I may have disappointed you. Suhi was somewhat surprised to hear Wei Yi's refusal. This result was completely unexpected. Wasn't Wei Yi's original intention to take the imperial examination to become an official? And with his status as a student, passing the written examination would have been a piece of cake. Why would he suddenly give up such a good opportunity? Being a freelance craftsman was indeed lucrative, but becoming an official would bring him a much higher status and the chance for a meteoric rise in the future. You won't reconsider? Suhi looked at Wei Yi in surprise. No, I've thought it through these past few days. Perhaps I'm not cut out for officialdom. I'd rather focus on forging swords. Of course, if the country ever needs my help, I will certainly be happy to help, Wei Yi said with a smile. In reality, becoming a registered swordsmith with the Sword Forging Bureau inherently carries the obligation to be called up in wartime and serve the nation. This is the price the court pays for the status and position granted to swordsmiths, along with certain privileges and the Royal Pearl Seal. What a shame. In that case, I'll let Lord Wang know. Of course, if you change your mind, feel free to let me know, Suhi said. Wei Yi bowed again, but said nothing more. Hao Dong then registered Wei Yi on the spot, and he officially became a registered 5th rank swordsmith with the Sword Forging Bureau. After seeing Suhi and Hao Dong off, Wei Yi looked at the Royal Pearl Seal and his identity badge in his hands, feeling incredibly happy. Becoming a 5th rank swordsmith naturally brought a whole new life. 5 pearl jewel swords were symbols of status for the powerful. Becoming a 5th rank swordsmith meant connecting with more powerful figures. Just like Du Jiang, he would have extensive connections, which could prove useful in crucial moments. Of course, this wasn't the end of Wei Yi's life. He now preferred being an uncrowned king to serving in the imperial court. He had wealth, power, connections, and even his own private army. Furthermore, he believed that with this system, a future in which he would surpass all others was not impossible. Shortly after seeing Suhi off, a carriage from the Wanjian pavilion arrived at the Wei residence. Du Jiang disembarked, his face brimming with excitement. He quickly entered the courtyard. Wei Yi, congratulations. You really didn't disappoint me. Ha ha ha. Du Jiang laughed heartily. After the assessment that day, he had suspected Wei Yi might succeed. But upon receiving the confirmed news, he was overjoyed and thrilled. He hadn't expected Wei Yi to truly perform a miracle. With almost astonishing speed, he had leapt from an ordinary blacksmith to a 5th grade swordsmith. It was as if he had divine intervention. But Du Jiang's joy was genuine. Wei Yi's achievement of a 5th grade swordsmith was a powerful addition to the Wanjian pavilion. Furthermore, the hardware handicraft industry's head honcho could finally be Wei Yi's successor. Manager Du, you're truly well informed, Wei Yi said with a smile. He naturally knew of the close relationship between the 10,000 Swords Pavilion and the Swordsmithing Division, so he would surely have received the news first and he suspected it wasn't just Du Jiang. Qiu Zuanji might have known as well. I'm not the only one well informed. The prefect also knows, and even before I did. Just before I left, he sent someone to ask me to invite you. Lord Li is hosting a banquet at his mansion tonight to celebrate your achievement as a 5th rank swordsmith. Du Jiang said with a smile. The prefect wants me to be his guest? Wei Yi was slightly surprised. Yes, Lord Li is a sword enthusiast and has always treated swordsmiths with respect. He was delighted to hear that a legendary 5th rank swordsmith had emerged in King's House City, so he wanted to meet you, Du Jiang added. Okay, then I'll respectfully obey. Wei Yi smiled faintly. As expected, with a change in status, his fate also changed instantly. The prefect was the most powerful official in King's House City. He held a high position and power, a figure he had never been able to reach. Last time, it was Du Jiang who intervened to get him to help his second uncle. But now, this Lord Li had actually invited him to a banquet. This was a great opportunity for him to make friends. He could easily establish a relationship by giving him a 5-beaded sword. With such a connection, the one family wouldn't dare to bother him again, even if they had 100 guts. Chapter 57. Langsheng Winery is very strange. Inside Giant Feng Tower, Qiu Zuanji had just received news from the sword forging division that Wei Yi had passed the 5th rank swordsmith exam. His face suddenly darkened, his brow furrowed, his eyes filled with shock. What kind of monster is this kid? It's only been a short time, and he's actually become a 5th rank swordsmith. How is this possible? Qiu Zuanji couldn't believe it. He knew better than anyone how difficult it was to reach the 5th rank. It was a barrier that held back countless swordsmiths. Even if Wei Yi was exceptionally gifted, this was still a bit too much. Back then, Qiu Zuanji was considered a genius, yet it still took countless hours of hard work and study. He even sought guidance from a master before breaking through to the 7th rank and entering the ranks of a 5th rank swordsmith. But Wei Yi, a self-taught man, had achieved this without a teacher. And in such a short time, he had leapt from a complete novice to a 5th rank swordsmith. It was as easy as eating or drinking water. This left Qiu Zuanji feeling a bit overwhelmed. Could someone be secretly teaching him? Qiu Zuanji thought of this possibility. Otherwise, it was impossible to explain everything. Thinking carefully, the Wei family had offended the Liu family, yet remained unscathed. This was no accident. Perhaps there truly was some powerful figure behind the Wei family, aiding them. Who could be teaching Wei Yi? This person, who could have enabled Wei Yi to become a 5th grade swordsmith so quickly, must have been at least 5th grade, perhaps even 3rd grade. Qiu Zuanji thought about the swordsmiths he knew of who was 5th grade or higher, but he couldn't think of who it could be. Even if someone was secretly teaching Wei Yi, his achievement in such a short time was truly astonishing. Even he couldn't achieve that without 3 to 5 years. But thinking of such a peerless talent being recruited by Du Yujiang early on, Qiu Zuanji felt a pang of regret for his earlier foolish attempt to suppress him. Now that Wei Yi had become a 5th grade swordsmith, the Wanjian Pavilion was truly strengthened. Combined with Wei Yi's previously accumulated fame, the Wanjian Pavilion might just seize this opportunity to soar again. Furthermore, his original plan to seize the hardware and handicraft industry headquarters from Du Yujiang is likely to be thwarted. On the north bank of West Lake in Kingsao City is the city's most famous entertainment destination. It's home to numerous brothels, prostitutes, and restaurants. However, compared to the hustle and bustle of the night, the daytime is much quieter and more deserted. Wanzai, looking hungover, emerged from a brothel and boarded the family's luxurious carriage. He'd indulged himself in the brothel the previous night, and with his hangover, he'd finally gotten out of the young woman's bed and headed home. Also seated in the carriage was Liu Yan, the warrior who usually secretly protected Wanzai. He was an 8th rank warrior, one of several experts lavishly supported by the Wan family. Young master. Liu Yan clasped his fists. The brewery has burned down, right? Wanzai asked, leaning back in his chair. Liu Yan's face was solemn. After a pause, he said, "My lord, no. Why?" Wanzai sat up straight, looking at Liu Yan with displeasure. "My lord, please forgive me for speaking frankly. It's best not to provoke that brewery. It's very sinister. Last night, when I was about to start something, I felt as if a disaster was about to happen. I was terrified. When I sneaked in at night and prepared to set it on fire, the tinder box went out inexplicably. Then I felt the stone kiln statue in the courtyard come alive, roaring at me and trying to pounce on me. The terrifying feeling didn't disappear until I left the courtyard," Liu Yan said with lingering fear. Even now, thinking back on it, he still felt a chill down his spine. Hearing Liu Yan's words, Wanzai couldn't help but think of the strange things he had encountered there before. He felt a little scared. "Young master, I'm sorry I can't complete this mission. That winery may have the assistance of a master, and that kiln, the guardian of the house, is likely some kind of magical artifact. If you insist on taking on the Lansheng winery, then seek help from another expert," Liu Yan said sternly. He protected the Wan family and worked for them solely for the sake of profit. If his life truly was in danger, he certainly wouldn't risk it. "Okay, I understand." Wanzai leaned back in his seat again and closed his eyes. Though his expression was sullen, his heart was restless. No wonder he'd felt like he'd seen a ghost that day. It turned out there were magical artifacts in that winery. Guo Pixiu had truly invested heavily. Wanzai knew well that magical artifacts weren't something that ordinary people could forge. They might even be purchased with money. However, given the Guo family's influence, it was possible they could obtain them from a Taoist sect. He could only admit he'd underestimated Guo Pixiu's determination to steal their winery's business. Perhaps gang leader Guo had secretly instructed him to do this. This was a rather tricky situation, but he couldn't just let it go. His father had entrusted him with the management of the liquor store. If he couldn't even handle this little thing, how could he possibly compete with his brothers for the family business in the future? Perhaps I'll have to ask the crown prince for help, Wanzai thought to himself. But he couldn't ask Zhao Hanking for help unless it was absolutely necessary. Otherwise, he would appear incompetent. What should I do? Wanzai felt a deep sense of unease. In the evening, Wei Yi and Du Jiang went to the government office together. Wei Yi had also brought a sword with the Chinese character Wei as a gift. After all, time was short, and he didn't have time to forge a new sword as a gift. Du Jiang also told Wei Yi that when he asked Li Zinian for help with Wei Tieshan's execution, he had said that when the third son of the Li family came of age, Wei Yi would personally forge a sword with the Chinese character Wei for him. Now that the third young master is about to come of age, it just so happens that he is visiting the mansion today. So it is most appropriate for Wei Yi to bring a sword with the word Wei as a gift. Of course, if the Lansheng wine had not been brewed yet, Wei Yi would definitely bring a few jars of Lansheng wine for Li Zifu to taste. After arriving at the government office, Wei Yi finally met the prefect, Li Zinian. He looked quite elegant and had a gentle face, but there was still an air of superiority between his eyebrows. When Li Xinian saw Wei Yi, he naturally couldn't help but praise and be polite. Wei Yi also presented the 1-bead sword he brought with him and said that he would definitely forge a 5-bead sword for Lord Li in the future. After some pleasantries, Du Yujiang brought up the matter of the general hardware handicraft industry. I'm getting old, and I think it's time to step down. Now that Wei Yi has become a 5th rank swordsmith, according to the law, he's more qualified than I'm to serve as the head of the lineage. Furthermore, he's a student. If it weren't for his illness and inadequate performance, he wouldn't have failed the academy exam, and might even be a scholar by now. So, with his talent and knowledge, and his current status as a 5th rank swordsmith, I believe he's more than qualified for the position of head of the lineage, Du Yujiang said confidently. Yes, that's right, brother Du. It's time to think about a peaceful life. Not a problem, let Wei Yi take over as head of the lineage. I'll submit a report to the Ministry of Revenue tomorrow, and once the approval comes through, Wei Yi can succeed you as head of the lineage, Li Xinian said with a smile. He was well aware of Du Yujiang's plan. He didn't want the position to fall to Qiyu Zuanji. Now that Wei Yi had become a 5th rank swordsmith, he had the qualifications, so he naturally didn't mind doing a favor. Thank you, Lord Li. Thank you, Lord Li. Wei Yi also clasped his fists in gratitude. Chapter 58, The Power of a Tripod, Seeking Follow-up Reading. Soon after, a servant arrived to announce that dinner was ready. Li Xinian invited Du Yujiang and Wei Yi to the banquet. The food and wine were served, and the dishes were exquisite and sumptuous. Female musicians were also invited to play, creating a lively atmosphere. Li Xinian's eldest and 3rd sons also attended the banquet. The eldest son, Li Yu, was a 9th rank warrior and currently served as a lieutenant general in the King's House City Patrol Battalion. The 2nd son was serving as an official in another province, and was therefore not in King's House City. The 3rd son, Li Zhao, was currently a student at King Feng Academy. Wei Yi was naturally aware of King Feng Academy. His predecessor was also a scholar. He longed to visit King Feng Academy, but it was not accessible to ordinary people. Furthermore, the academy's principal, Du Shaoling, was a renowned literary figure, someone whom his predecessor deeply admired. Wei Yi introduced the two, and exchanged a few pleasantries. Then they took their seats, and began to eat. After a few rounds of toasts, the dinner gradually became more enjoyable. Du Yujiang and Li Xinian were enjoying a lively conversation, while Wei Yi and the 2 young masters of the Li family also joined them, toasting each other. Young Master Wei, I offer you a toast. Thank you for the precious sword. Li Zhao raised his glass, and immediately offered Wei Yi a glass. Yes, 3rd brother, I heard that the Wei sword is hard to find right now. Li Yu also commented. 3rd young master, you're welcome. Wei Yi immediately returned the toast. He then turned to Li Yu and said, eldest young master, if you like it, I'll personally customize a 5-beaded sword for you. You're too polite, young master Wei. This is too precious. It's not appropriate for someone of my status to wear a 5-beaded sword, Li Yu said with a smile. That's fine. If it's inconvenient, I can stamp it with the 3-bead royal seal. You're a warrior, and a 5-bead sword isn't susceptible to blood corrosion, and can also increase your combat power. Young master, you protect the people of King's House City, so you're naturally worthy of a 5-bead sword. Wei Yi's words made Li Yu's heart blossom, his lips almost smiling. As a martial artist, he naturally loved swords, and he valued the quality of a sword more than the royal seal. However, due to age differences, his father's sword was a 5-bead sword, and he could only carry a 3-bead sword on a daily basis. But if Wei Yi could truly gift him a 3-bead sword of 5-bead quality, that would be perfect. Then I thank young Master Wei in advance. Come, young Master Wei, let me toast you again. After the banquet, Li Yu summoned a small patrol squad to personally escort Wei Yi home. He also ordered that future patrols and security around the Wei family compound be prioritized to ensure the family's safety. After returning home, Wei Yi continued to work on his writing skill for over an hour before retiring to bed. Before retiring, he also upgraded his fitness skill. With a familiar feeling coming over him, Wei Yi quickly fell into a deep sleep. A silent night followed. Wei Yi awoke naturally at first light in the morning, his body's circadian rhythm perfectly regulated. As his consciousness cleared, Wei Yi clearly sensed the changes in his body. He quickly recalled the newly absorbed information. Some of it concerned his own physical changes, while others concerned his improved fitness skill. With this advancement, Wei Yi gained iron bones and the strength of a tripod. Iron bones meant his bones were even harder, while the strength of a tripod was equivalent to the force of 1,000 pounds. This strength was roughly equivalent to the ultimate strength of a 4th level Kame realm warrior. In other words, although Wei Yi lacked any blood and ki, his physical strength and muscle power alone were comparable to those of a martial artist at the 4th level of the Kame realm. It seemed that, if he continued to cultivate this fitness skill, he might one day achieve enlightenment in his physical body. Furthermore, Wei Yi was pleasantly surprised to discover that after this advancement, his innate strength had actually changed on the system interface. Name: Wei Yi innate strength, average, 23%, lifespan 42 years, plus 208 days, blacksmithing skill, level 3, 92% proficiency away from leveling up, cooking skill, level 4. This fitness skill can actually change innate strength. Wei Yi was pleasantly surprised. But then again, it made sense. His physical condition was constantly improving, and so too would his innate strength. Of course, besides the physical changes, this advancement was as expected. The system had once again simplified the external exercises of the Legion body refining technique. This, in fact, made cultivation much easier. Wei Yi even wondered if the system had interpreted the word Yi in the Legion body refining technique as meaning easy. The character Yi has two distinct meanings, change and ease. It felt like these two meanings had been merged. Change was easy, becoming easy. Wei Yi's mind was spinning wildly, but he only thought about it briefly, not dwelling on it any further. He quickly dressed and got up, feeling the steely strength of his now strengthened body. Wei Yi felt even more relaxed. As expected, a man needs to be tough and strong. After waking up, Wei Yi began his daily exercise routine. After breakfast, it was time to forge the sword. Although he had become a 5th rank swordsmith, he still had to fulfill the order for this jeweled sword. After all, the payment had already been received. Fortunately, he now had a simpler process for forging each jeweled sword, and his recent physical changes would further improve efficiency. However, Wei Yi would still delegate any steps that could be completed to Hulin, Sunfu, and Shitao. He also diligently mentored Shitao, helping him improve rapidly. At the Wanjian Pavilion, Wei Yi's achievement as a 5th rank swordsmith had raised the price of the original Wei Yi sword to 130 taels of silver. Despite this, many people still rushed to buy. Another 5 days passed in a flash. The approval for Wei Yi to take the position of head of the hardware handicraft industry had arrived. That day, Du Yujiang summoned the heads of his subordinate guilds, as well as several respected shopkeepers, to a meeting at Wanjian Pavilion. They were preparing to formally hand over the position of head of the industry to Wei Yi. The heads of the guilds had long known about the change of head of the industry. Ever since Qiyu Zuanji arrived in King's House City, he had been vying for the position. And almost everyone knew that, as a 5th rank swordsmith, Qiyu Zuanji's position as head of the industry was inevitable. Even if Du Yujiang disliked it, he would undoubtedly lose the position given his superior status. Consequently, many heads of the guilds had already secretly followed Qiyu Zuanji's lead. This was especially true of Marta, the head of the ironware industry. This was why, despite knowing Wei Yi was a 9th rank swordsmith, he had agreed to help Wanzai fight the Wei family. Part of the reason was to use this opportunity to curry favor with Qiyu Zuanji. After all, Wei Yi was Du Yujiang's associate, a well-known faction. However, what no one expected was that Wei Yi had suddenly risen to the rank of 5th rank swordsmith. He had even earned the favor of Prefect Li and was immediately designated as Du Yujiang's successor. Therefore, the expressions of the various masters in the room were extremely solemn. Some of the masters who hadn't clearly taken sides felt relatively at ease. Those who had clearly supported Qiyu Zuanji were feeling heavy-hearted and overwhelmed with mixed emotions. Marta, in particular, was on pins and needles, his expression as grim as could be. He had just recently gone to the Wei family to cause trouble, forcing them to close their iron workshop. Now, things had changed, and Wei Yi had become a 5th rank swordsmith, and even the headmaster. Even if Wei Yi was generous, he probably wouldn't let go of the past. His career in the ironwork business was probably coming to an end, and whether his shop would even remain open in the future was uncertain. If Wei Yi had been even more ruthless, he would have been kicked out of King's House City. Thinking about it now, he truly regretted it to the core. Why had he been so foolish as to help Wanzai in the first place? Chapter 59. Establishing Authority. Has Qiyu Zuanji not arrived yet? Du Yujiang surveyed the room. Almost every head of the sword and knife business had arrived, save Qiyu Zuanji, the current head of the sword and knife business. He wasn't surprised, though. Qiyu Zuanji was probably feeling down, so it was natural he wouldn't come. Boss Qiyu, please come this way. A servant's voice suddenly rang from outside the door. Everyone in the room glanced at each other in surprise. They hadn't expected Qiyu Zuanji to actually arrive. Even more surprising was the smile on Qiyu Zuanji's face. Young Master Wei, congratulations. You're truly a prodigy. Becoming a 5th grade swordsmith at such a young age makes me truly ashamed. Qiyu Zuanji beamed. Qiyu Zuanji's words and attitude left everyone bewildered and stunned. Shouldn't Qiyu Zuanji be upset and resentful of Wei Yi, who had taken his position as head of the sword and knife business? But what was wrong with his attitude? Had he completely abandoned his dignity? Qiyu Zuanji was naturally uncomfortable with Wei Yi becoming the head of the agency. However, he knew full well that Wei Yi was a truly gifted genius, a rare talent who could not be suppressed. He must have some powerful figure behind him, and dealing with him would be asking for trouble. Furthermore, he had always admired Wei Yi, and had no grudges against him. It was simply a conflict of interest due to their different factions, forcing him to take action. Ultimately, it was a feud between him and Du Yujiang, not Wei Yi. So, even if he disliked Du Yujiang, there was no need to enmity Wei Yi. Furthermore, he couldn't harbor a grudge against a promising talent like Wei Yi. Turning hostility into friendship was the right thing to do. Qiyu Zuanji's behavior surprised Wei Yi, but he suddenly felt a surge of admiration for his smooth and worldly wisdom. Even he himself wouldn't have been able to match his skill. It was a shame for him not to enter the political arena. Du Yujiang, however, wasn't overly surprised. He knew Qiyu Zuanji as a typical person. Integrity and integrity were never a thing for him. He could even acknowledge a thief as his father to steal a skill, and he would work like a slave to break through to the 7th rank. This was his strength. Seeing Qiyu Zuanji lower his stance and show his goodwill before Wei Yi, those leaders who still held out hope for Qiyu Zuanji finally faced reality. But the most panicked was Ma Tai. He had originally thought that if he turned around and hugged Qiyu Zuanji's thigh, he might still have a chance of survival. Now that he had surrendered, he, a small pawn, was likely to be cannon fodder. Manager Qiyu, you're too kind. Please take a seat, Wei Yi said amiably. As the saying goes, one shouldn't strike a smiling face, and he and Qiyu Zuanji didn't have much of a grudge. Now that Qiyu Zuanji had lowered his stance and shown goodwill, there was no need for him to act pretentiously. He understood the principle of reconciling grievances, rather than creating them. However, for those who had truly offended him, he naturally wouldn't repay them with kindness. So, as he and Du Jiang sat down at the head table, he cast a cold glance at Ma Tai. Since this man had chosen to serve as a dog for others, he should be prepared to be treated as a non-human. Alright, everyone's here, let's get started. I don't like to be long-winded. I called everyone here today, mainly to announce the new head of the hardware industry. Du Jiang glanced at Wei Yi beside him. Upon the prefect's recommendation, from today on, Wei Yi will serve as the head of the hardware industry in King's House City. I will also resign from this position, Du Jiang stated sternly. As soon as Du Jiang finished speaking, Qiyu Zuanji was the first to speak up. Young Master Wei is young and promising. I think Lord Li's arrangement is reasonable. Indeed, that's right. I heard that young Master Wei is still a student. He's knowledgeable and talented. He can definitely lead our hardware industry to even greater heights. Indeed, we look forward to young Master Wei's guidance in the future. Everyone responded with friendly greetings. Haha, thank you all for your courtesy. From now on, I'd like to ask for your support and assistance in managing our hardware handicraft industry together. Wei Yi also stood up and clasped his fists. Of course. From now on, we will fully cooperate with the head of the industry. That's right. Everyone echoed. Okay, then. Please report on the current situation of each industry, as well as the rules and regulations. Wei Yi's expression suddenly grew serious. He then turned to Marta, who was still smiling, and said, Head of Ma, let's start with you. As soon as Wei Yi said this, everyone in the room fell silent, and everyone looked at Marta with a slightly strange look. It was no secret that Marta had ordered the closure of the Wei family ironware shop. He had even boasted to many people that Wei Yi's choice to join Liu Jiang was due to his inability to understand the current situation. So everyone knew by now that Wei Yi was going to settle accounts with Martai. Oh, okay. Martai was a little flustered, his face extremely grim, and his smile was uglier than crying. He hesitantly recounted the ironmonger's rules and regulations to Wei Yi. Wait a minute, isn't there a guild rule that says iron is a masculine object, while women are feminine? Iron touched by women softens, so the guild rules that women are not allowed to operate ironmongery? Why didn't I hear you mention that just now? Wei Yi asked sullenly. Huh? Yes, there is such a rule. Martai said awkwardly. What a bullshit rule. For an industry to thrive, it must be open and inclusive. What's the point of having to distinguish between men and women? Besides, women don't use needles, scissors, or kitchen knives, right? Women probably use scissors and kitchen knives more than men do. And you're telling me women are feminine, and iron touched by them softens, so do you only sell ironmongery to men and not women? Wei Yi's rebuke left Martai speechless. He lowered his head, trying to find a hole to crawl into. He truly regretted his humiliating words to Wei Yi that day, but there's no such thing as regret. He knew full well that Wei Yi's public reprimand was a sign of a reckoning. What the head guild leader said is true. I'll change it immediately when I get back, Martai said quickly. No need for that. Gather all members of your ironware guild tomorrow and bring them to your Ma family headquarters. I think your guild needs a reorganization. Wei Yi said coldly. While he appreciated gratitude, he wouldn't repay kindness with grievance. He naturally wouldn't keep someone like Martai in charge of the ironware guild. He might even have him kicked out of King's House City. Got it, got it. Martai's heart sank. He knew he was probably done for this time. Wei Yi said nothing, but instead looked at the head of the locking guild and asked him to report on the current situation of their guild and the relevant bylaws and regulations. Although some of the things he found inappropriate, he didn't point them out in public. He had just publicly reprimanded Marta, partly to settle accounts with him, and partly to establish his authority. Liu Jiang had also suggested the same thing not long ago. It was impossible for these shop owners to be completely unaware of the Wei family ironware shop's closure. If he remained silent, he would become an easy target. What prestige would he have in the future? As the saying goes, good people are often bullied. He would use this horse iron as a scapegoat, showing these old shrews that, though young, he was ruthless. And today was just the beginning. Tomorrow would be the real show. Chapter 60, Get Out of King's House City, Seeking Follow-Up Reading. After Wei Yi returned home from the Wanjian Pavilion, Shitao excitedly ran over. Brother, I did it. The sword I forged today cut through the sword testing rod. Hearing Shitao's words, Wei Yi's eyes lit up with joy. Although he'd expected Shitao to be nearly ready for the task within the past few days, seeing him finally succeed was naturally a source of joy. Quick, show me the sword, Wei Yi said. Shitao immediately ran over to show Wei Yi his forged sword. It was practically indistinguishable from his own Wei-shaped sword. Shitao had truly inherited his true teachings and mastered the art to perfection. Haha, Shitao, you're incredible. I can't even tell if this is yours or mine. Amazing. You've become an excellent 9th grade swordsmith. From now on, the Wei-shaped sword will be yours. Wei Yi patted Shitao's shoulder, pleased. Well, brother, I can support my family. Shitao smiled innocently. Wei Yi had previously discussed with Shitao his decision not to allow him to take the swordsmith exam. Partly because the 9th rank swordsmith exam might reveal some of his skills, but also because registering for it would require paying a sword every month as a swordsmithing tax. This wasn't worth the effort. Therefore, it was sufficient for the family to have Wei Yi register himself with the swordsmithing department. This way, he could pay a 5-jewel sword annually. Shitao had also stated that he didn't care about the status of a swordsmith. He simply wanted to help Wei Yi forge swords, share the workload, earn money for the family, and repay the Wei family for taking him in. So, Wei Yi decided to let Shitao forge a 1-jewel sword using his own name and identity. This way, he wouldn't lose money and wouldn't jeopardize the reputation the Wanjian pavilion had painstakingly built. Later, when he was older and had taught him some techniques, allowing him to become a 7th rank swordsmith, it wouldn't be too late to consider taking the exam. Well, Shitao can support the family now. Tonight, Big Brother will cook you a few delicious dishes to reward our Wei family's new swordsmith. Wei Yi patted Shitao's shoulder and said with satisfaction. Shitao smiled happily at Wei Yi's words. Big brother, I'll continue forging swords. Wei Yi returned to his room and immediately began to work on his writing skills. Not long after, Wei Yi knocked on the door and walked in. Brother, the head of the ironmongery wants to see you. Wei Yi said seriously, a hint of anger on her face. Clearly still resentful of Ma Tai for what happened last time. Let him in. Wei Yi had expected him to come. After all, Ma Tai was no fool. He knew that if he didn't come to fight for his life now, he might never have another chance. In the courtyard, Ma Tai was apologizing to Wei Zushi. Wei Zushi was a little surprised by Ma Tai's sudden and humble apology, but she also roughly guessed that it was probably because Wei Yi had become a 5th grade swordsmith. However, no matter what the reason, she didn't want to pay any attention to this person, nor was she willing to accept his apology. My brother asked you to come in. Wei Yi said coldly. Okay, thank you. Ma Tai smiled and walked into Wei Yi's room. Greetings, boss. Ma Tai bowed immediately after entering the room. I have come to apologize to you for what happened last time. I blamed my blindness before. Don't talk nonsense, I don't want to hear it. Wei Yi interrupted Ma Tai without looking up. Ma Tai paused, took out a banknote from his pocket, stepped forward, and said, Boss, this is 500 taels of silver. I hope you will accept it as compensation for your losses. I hope you will. Take it back. Do you think I need your silver? Wei Yi interrupted Ma Tai again. Now, a 5-pearl sword forged by him could be sold for thousands of taels of silver. A mere 500 taels was naturally something he looked down upon. Of course, I know the head of the shop wouldn't be short of this little money. Besides, I'd like to offer you our family's main store. While it's not worth much, it's on Main Street and in a prime location. It'll be the perfect place for your Wei family's ironware shop. Wei Yi paused his brush and glanced up at Ma Tai. Ma Tai, if you want to be respectable, then tomorrow you should voluntarily give up your position as head of the shop, close all your shops, and get out of King's House City. Wei Yi said expressionlessly. Upon hearing Wei Yi's words, Ma Tai's expression completely fell, his face grimacing. His heart sank to the bottom, his last glimmer of hope shattered. But this outcome didn't surprise him. He wouldn't have easily forgiven someone who had bullied him and taken advantage of his misfortune. He could only blame himself for it. He had chosen the wrong side and helped the wrong person. His short-sightedness had prevented him from seeing the situation clearly, and he had offended someone he shouldn't have. After a moment's silence, Ma Tai bowed again and said, Ma, I understand. He immediately put away the banknotes and walked out of Wei Yi's room. During dinner, Wei Yi also told his aunt and sister about his rise to head of the hardware handicraft industry. I was wondering why Ma Tai suddenly came to apologize, Wei Zu said with a smile, feeling relieved just thinking about it. I've already driven Ma Tai out of King's House City. After he closes his shop, I'll take over all 5 of the Ma family's iron workshops and blacksmiths and turn them into the hallmarks of my Wei family. I'll show those who bully our Wei family the fate of being replaced by our family, Wei Yi said with conviction. He wasn't bragging, he finally had the credentials. Becoming head of a hardware handicraft industry meant he was a powerful figure in the business world. He had status and a certain amount of power. He was even more appreciated by the prefect, Lord Li, and established a relationship with him. After he had forged the two 5-bead jewel swords, he presented them to Lord Li and his eldest son, Li Yu. He now had two new backers. One was the most powerful official in King's House City, and the other was in charge of the King's House City patrol. While he couldn't claim to be free to walk all over the city, at least he no longer had to fear being bullied. Brother, you're amazing. With you here, our family won't have to worry about being bullied anymore. Wei King's face was filled with joy, and she felt a sense of peace she had never felt before. Late at night, Wei Yi, having finished honing his calligraphy skills, was about to turn in for bed when a familiar voice suddenly rang out. Congratulations. After a few days, you've become a 5th grade swordsmith. That guy finally showed up. Wei Yi knew it was a shamat. He opened the window and saw him standing there, still dressed in his nightgown and mask. If you don't show up, I'll sell these 5 swords, Wei Yi said. Where are my swords? The shaman held out his calloused and scarred hand. Wait. Wei Yi pulled out 5 unmarked swords from under the bed and handed them to the shaman. By the way, last time you asked me if I could help you get rid of Liu Fugi. You're willing to help me? Wei Yi was pleasantly surprised. Liu Fugi was hell-bent on revenge against the Wei family and the death of his second uncle. Keeping him around was always a threat, and only if he could be completely eliminated would Wei Yi truly be at ease. If I'm still alive after tomorrow night, I'll help you, but you have to promise to forge a 5-bead sword for me and treat me to a meal of your cooking. The shaman said again. Okay, deal. Wait, who are you going to kill tomorrow night? Wei Yi suddenly realized that this guy might be in danger tomorrow. Otherwise, why would he say such a thing? You'll know when the time comes. Well, I have to go. I hope we'll meet again. Before he could finish his words, the shaman had disappeared from the window again. Thanks to Shangjiashi and Lanauxia Wihangzuogi for the reward of 700 Kidian coins. Thank you all for your monthly tickets. It's the end of the month, so I'd like to ask for some more monthly ticket support. Chapter 61 World Alliance. The next day, Wei Yi convened a meeting of the Ironware Guild at the Ma family Ironware shop's main branch. All the shopkeepers in King's House City were present. Ma Tai announced his impending departure from King's House City, and therefore could no longer serve as head of the Ironware Guild. He asked Wei Yi to elect a new head. Ma Tai's words surprised the shopkeepers. Many of them had also gone to the Wei family Ironware shop that day. The others had also heard about Ma Tai's expulsion from the shop. Now that Wei Yi had become the head of the guild, Ma Tai naturally couldn't stay in King's House City. At the meeting, Wei Yi didn't choose a new head. Instead, he decided to temporarily assume the position of head of the Ironware Guild himself, waiting for a suitable candidate to be appointed. After all, he needed to observe the performance of the shopkeepers before making a final decision. After the meeting, Wei Yi went to the brewery. Meng Shulian had been keeping an eye on the brewery for a while, so Wei Yi had little to worry about. The first batch of grains, mixed with koji and fermented earlier, should be ready in a few days. Then the distilling process could begin. When Wei Yi returned home from the brewery, he found some unfamiliar guests. They were women, chatting cheerfully with his aunt. Pulling Wei King over to inquire, Wei Yi discovered that the women were the wives of the owners of various ironware shops. They had come to bring gifts, including rouge, powder, brocade, and other items. Wei Zu and Wei King were delighted. Wei Yi suddenly realized that these Business people, as expected, were truly worldly wise. He wouldn't have appreciated any ordinary gifts from a 5th rank swordsmith like him. They were too expensive, and he couldn't afford them. So, asking the women in his family to please his aunt and sister was the easiest way. He didn't mind it, though. It was human nature, after all, and since his aunt and sister seemed so happy, why not? That afternoon, the 5 ironware shops of the Ma family closed down one after another and ceased operations. Ma Tai was even selling his own house and preparing to leave King's House City. This matter was also widely spread in the city. In a hidden room in the backyard of Miao Fang, by the West Lake in King's House City. Do we have to continue investigating? Said a slim woman in a red dress. The man standing at the window with his back to her remained silent. In order to prevent your Xuanjing division from investigating this case, the person behind the scenes was able to frame your Xuanjing division for colluding with the rebels and intending to murder the emperor. Do you think the people involved in this case are ordinary people? The woman in the red dress continued. Of course I know, but my master and those brothers can't die in vain. No matter how big a figure is behind this, I have to get to the bottom of it. At least when I die, I can have the face to see them and let them know the truth. The man said in a deep voice. But what if you can't find out the truth? Then at least I tried my best, and it's a worthy death. The woman was silent for a moment, adjusted her tone, and said, you have made such a big fuss in succession during this period of time, so Zheng Kang has guessed your purpose and made full preparations. You have always been cautious in doing things. Why did you kill Liu Xiaohu and that Captain Wang and others without destroying the bodies? I did it on purpose. Liu Xiaohu and Zheng Kang are just small fry. They should not know the real inside story of the bride case. So the person behind Zheng Kang is the big fish. I did this to scare him and let him know that I'm a person with extraordinary strength. He can't stop me by relying on the few warriors in his own family. He has to ask for help from the person behind me. So you want to lure out the person behind Zheng Kang? Well, those people have shown up during this period of time, just waiting for me to fall into the trap. If we can catch one of them, maybe we can find some useful clues. If you insist on going, bring more people with you. Given your friendship with the alliance leader, he'll surely be willing to help you if you ask. It's too dangerous for just you and Wu Nan to go. This is our Xuanjing division's business. We can't burden the brothers of the Xiangsha alliance with taking risks with us. You said, if the people behind this can deal with our Xuanjing division, they are definitely capable of dealing with the Xiangsha alliance. Hearing the man's words, the woman in the red dress hesitated, but ultimately fell silent. By the way, if I do die, please ask you and Mr. Gong to look after the Wei family and that Wei Yi. That 9th grade swordsmith. No, he's 5th grade now. That's right, I promised to keep him safe. How come you never keep your promises to me? I'm sorry Han Kaiyang. I, Sha Chen, have failed you in my life. Hearing the man's words, a trace of sadness flashed in the woman's eyes. After a moment's silence, she said, go and keep your promise to him. I don't care. If you want to protect him, don't die. I know you won't. Sha Chen said with a smile. Why are you helping Wei Yi? Wei Tieshan secretly forged weapons for us before, so I'm just repaying him a favor. Besides, I like that guy. He's courageous and talented, and now he's even become a 5th rank swordsmith. It's truly astonishing. If I die, find a way to win him over to our Xiangsha alliance. If you want to win him over, do it yourself. I don't care. Okay, let's go. Sha Chen waved his hand and walked out the door. In the Wei family courtyard, Wei Yi had just finished forging the 5-bead sword for Li Xinian and Liu, father and son. He then returned to his room to continue practicing the simplified external skills of the Yijin Lion Tishu, Yijin body refining technique. The forging of Yi's Wei character sword had been completely handed over to Shitao and Sun Fu. Wei Yi could also spare more time to focus on his fitness and calligraphy skills. After all, both skills could increase his strength and boost his cards. Now a 5th rank swordsmith, at least in King's House City, he was at the top of the swordsmith class. Therefore, he wasn't in a rush to improve his blacksmithing skills. Sometimes, a tree that stands out in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. Being too prominent can actually be a bad thing, especially until one's sufficiently powerful and possesses enough hidden cards. It's better to keep a low profile. Even if one day he achieved the caliber of a top grade swordsmith, he wouldn't rush into the assessment. At least until he fully understood the world's situation and circumstances, he shouldn't be too prominent. Keeping some hidden cards in reserve and increasing one's own strength was the most important thing. After systematic simplification, the Yijin body refining technique had become much easier to practice. The movements consumed less energy than before, yet the proficiency gained was greater. This made each practice feel easier for Wei Yi. After dinner, Wei Yi resumed memorizing stories from classics, honing his calligraphy skills, and cultivating the spirit of the brush and ink. Before he knew it, the night had deepened again, and the autumn wind picked up again, rustling the bare branches with a whistling sound. Soldiers from the city patrol battalion passed by the Wei family's gate, carefully checking the surrounding area. Then they continued to patrol in the distance. In the inner house of the county government, more than 10 yamen runners were guarding the house, still alert to the movements around them. However, the wind was strong in late autumn, and the wind was howling every night, making them feel as if there were always someone around them. However, at this moment, a man in black quietly appeared from the darkness, and in a flash, he was already next to one of the yamen runners. Before that person could react, he had gone to see the king of hell. The figure of the man in black was like a ghost, and he seemed to be able to teleport in the dark. Every time he appeared, a yamen runner fell to the ground silently. Thanks to the digital book friends for awarding 100 starting coins. Thank you all for your monthly tickets. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62. The function of the golden leaf. The autumn wind was howling, and all the yamen runners in the inner house of the county government office were lying on the ground. The man in black, holding a long sword, quietly approached the door of the room where the magistrate Zenkang lived. Then he took out a short blade from his waist and picked up the bolt inside along the crack of the door. He gently pushed open the door, and it was pitch black inside. However, just as the man in black walked into the room, 2 long swords attacked from both sides almost at the same time. But the man in black had been alert and reacted very quickly. He twisted his body and moved his feet, easily dodging. At the same time, the long sword in his hand ruthlessly slashed at one of them. With a clang, the sword in the hand of the attacker broke. The black-clad man's sword blade attacked his throat directly, and the speed was so fast that he had no time to dodge. He was shocked and stepped back, but found that he could not dodge at all. He felt a chill on his neck, and hot blood spurted out directly. After slaying one man, the man in black swung his sword sharply, holding it horizontally in front of him, blocking the incoming blow from the other. Simultaneously, his left hand, swift as thunder, struck the man in the chest with a punch. He was knocked back against the wall, severely wounded and vomiting blood. However, this man's cultivation was far superior to the one who had just died, so the blow didn't kill him outright. He knew he was no match for the man in black, so he turned and rushed toward the window. But just as he was about to break through, the man in black's hand, with its sword, shot like an arrow, its cold light piercing the night sky and instantly piercing him. The man in black almost flew out of the window as well, landing outside. He wrenched the long sword from the corpse and glanced at the 5 other figures that had appeared around him. They were all dressed in brocade robes, but they also wore masks. One of them, a man in purple brocade, said coldly, "You finally appeared." The man in black remained silent, as he too waited for them to appear. In reality, he had known Zenkang wasn't in the room, but he was simply playing it safe, waiting for the real big fish to appear. Judging from their clothing and accessories, they weren't from any martial arts sects, but rather from a top-tier martial arts family, or perhaps even from a noble family. Meanwhile, in a quiet courtyard in King's House City, Zenkang stared at the man in black, his expression as grim as could be. He couldn't understand how this man knew he was hiding there. He disguised himself daily, entering and leaving the county government office, maintaining a discreet presence. There was no way anyone would know he wasn't there, and certainly no way he could find his way here, unless the bodyguards he'd murdered betrayed him. But they had been with him for years, his most trusted men, and logically wouldn't betray him. Tell me, where was the Zhu family bride, who was abducted on her wedding night 3 years ago, taken to? Who ordered you to do it? The man in black asked in a cold, emotionless voice. I don't know what you're talking about, Zenkang said, his face filled with guilt. I advise you to confess honestly. You've probably seen the bodies of Liu Xiaohu and Captain Wang, and you know the torture they endured before their deaths. So, if you don't want to experience that too, answer my questions honestly. Zenkang's face lit up with unconcealable fear at the man in black's words. He knew the torture Liu Xiaohu and Captain Wang injured before their deaths, and he was terrified. Seeing Zheng Kang hesitate, the man in black pierced his foot with his sword, pinning it to the bluestone floor. Zheng Kang screamed in pain like a butchered pig. "Tell me now, or I'll make you suffer." The man in black twisted the hilt of his sword, his voice cold. I'll tell you everything. The people you're looking for are in the county government office. There. After hearing Zheng Kang's words, the man in black was slightly surprised. This result was somewhat unexpected. But, oh no, sand and dust could be dangerous. The man in black's heart sank. He instantly struck Zheng Kang in the throat with a single sword. Then, with a single tap of his foot, he flew out of the house as light as a swallow and disappeared into the night. Inside the county government office, the sounds of fierce fighting, accompanied by the whistling autumn wind, shattered the tranquility of the night. Fires were also lit up on the streets of the city, and soldiers from the patrol camp were gathering towards the county government office from all directions. The man fighting with Shachan was a man in blue, dressed in luxurious clothes, and not wearing a mask. His face was stern and his eyes were extremely sharp. But what was even more fierce was his swordsmanship. Shachan killed 4 of the 5 masked men in brocade clothes who had appeared earlier. He also injured the man in purple and finally cut his hamstrings. He had wanted to keep him alive for interrogation. But suddenly, this blue-clothed swordsman appeared. This man was stronger than him, with superb swordsmanship and ruthless and decisive moves. After the two exchanged blows, Shachan was already seriously injured. But at this moment, another dark shadow rushed out from the night. He thrust his long sword straight at the man in green, but the man parried it with his sword, and forced him back with a kick. Seeing the suddenly appearing man in black, Shachan's heart sank. He shouted, "What are you doing here?" "To help you," Wu Nan said, having been forced back by the man in green. "No need for you, get going," Shachan shouted. He knew the man in green before him was exceptionally powerful. Even if Wu Nan came, the two of them combined might not be a match for him. It would be a complete waste. Wu Nan said nothing, but swung his sword again at the man in green. Outside the county government office, soldiers from the patrol battalion were about to converge on the office. But just then, a group of masked men in black suddenly emerged from the surrounding darkness and ambushed the patrol battalion. The two groups immediately engaged in a fight, but the men soon began to flee separately. Chase. The patrol battalion members immediately split up and began pursuing the men in black. The shouting and clamoring completely alarmed the entire city. Besides, it wasn't even midnight yet, and there were still some drunkards on the streets, as well as carriages returning from brothels. Not long after, Wei Yi, who was working on his calligraphy skills in his room, heard the commotion outside. He stepped out to see 2 guards watching from the gate. "What's going on?" Wei Yi asked. "I don't know what's going on in the city. There are a lot of soldiers outside, and they seem to be chasing someone." Hearing the guard's words, Wei Yi's heart sank, and he immediately suspected it was probably related to the Shamatha type of shaman. Who did that guy kill this time? It's causing such a commotion. No wonder he said that before. It looks like he might have a narrow escape this time. Wei Yi was genuinely worried about the Shamatha type of shaman, worried he'd be caught or killed. After all, he'd helped him before. Now, he'd promised to help him completely eliminate Liu Fugi. Although he didn't know who he was, Wei Yi sincerely didn't want anything to happen to him. Back in his room, Wei Yi stood at his desk, unable to calm down. He held his brush, his mind racing. Combined with the commotion outside, he felt the shaman might truly be doomed. However, he couldn't do anything to help, so he could only pray for God's blessing. "I hope you can survive this desperate situation and escape danger," Wei Yi thought to himself. At the same moment, he suddenly felt a shift in the ink energy within his sea of consciousness. The golden leaves on the small tree suddenly flew up. Then, they transformed into strands of golden ink, swelling within his sea of consciousness. These golden leaves. Wei Yi had a vague suspicion. He immediately said to himself, "I hope you can survive this desperate situation and escape danger." As he thought this, the golden ink began to converge towards the tip of his brush, tinging the brush with a faint golden glow. Without hesitation, Wei Yi wrote 8 words in the air. Survive this desperate situation and escape danger. These 8 words condensed from golden light, hovered in the air, emitting a warm glow. But soon, the 8 words once again transformed into countless golden points of light and dissipated into the air. At the same time, Wei Yi seemed to see the Shamat, covered in wounds and spitting blood. He was standing there, leaning on his sword, panting heavily. The feeling was fleeting, like some kind of hallucination. Chapter 63 Good news. In the backyard of the county government office, Wu Nan had collapsed to the ground, covered in blood. Sha Chen, on the other hand, was holding on to his neck sword. The other party wielded a 5-beaded jewel sword. If it hadn't been for the infusion of his blood and energy, the sword would have broken long ago. But now, he was seriously injured, and the sword was also battered and tattered, and it was about to give up. His body was covered with sword wounds, and the mask on his face had just been broken by the man in green, revealing his true face. His handsome face was pale, and his chin was stained red with blood. You are indeed a remnant of the Xuanjing division, Sha Chen, so you are not dead. The man in green said to Sha Chen expressionlessly. If I'm not mistaken, you are the blue-shirted swordsman who served with Marquis Wei Wu. Sha Chen said in a deep voice. He had never imagined that the person behind Zheng Kang was actually Marquis Wei Wu's man. Marquis Wei Wu was the younger brother of Prince Jinggan, and also a martial arts master. However, he did not inherit the throne. However, due to his distinguished military achievements, he was granted the title of Marquis. While the Marquis of Wei Wu was a prominent figure, he lacked the power to overthrow the Xuanjing division. The Xuanjing division was a special agency of the Great Yan Court, independent of the 6 ministries, and directly under the emperor. Its mission was to monitor officials, gather intelligence, conduct reconnaissance, arrest, interrogate, assassinate, conduct undercover operations, and subvert enemy generals. It also handled special cases involving demonic rebellion. Such an agency was simply beyond the reach of a single marquis. There must be powerful figures behind this. But what exactly did they want with the brides? Sha Chen couldn't fathom it, but he knew there must be some monstrous conspiracy. Otherwise, these powerful figures couldn't be pulling off such a lavish act simply out of some peculiar quirk. Tell me, who are the remaining members of the Xuanjing division? Who asked you to reinvestigate this case? Tell me the truth, and I'll spare your life. The man in green said coldly. Sha Chen chuckled bitterly but didn't answer. He knew his death was imminent. This was perhaps the extent of his investigation. Perhaps the answer would never be known. But regardless, having reached this point, he could die without regrets. At least when he met his master and brothers, he wouldn't feel ashamed of having survived this long. But at that moment, Sha Chen suddenly felt a strange surge of energy within him. The excruciating pain dissipated, and his nearly depleted blood surged again. It was as if his injuries had healed. An unprecedented powerful force erupted from deep within him. At the same time, a voice seemed to echo in his ears. I hope you find safety and escape this desperate situation. The voice was familiar. It seemed to belong to Wei Yi. But before he could comprehend what had happened, Wu Nan, who had been lying on the ground, suddenly leaped to his feet. The broken sword in his hand flew with astonishing speed, hurtling towards the man in green. But the man reacted quickly, dodging as his sword transformed into a silver streak and pierced Wu Nan. Wu Nan didn't dodge, letting the sword pierce his chest. Simultaneously, the broken sword in his hand pierced the green-clothed man's right arm. Brother, run! Wu Nan roared, clutching the green-clothed man's sword tightly. Sha Chen's eyes blazed red at the sight, the sudden burst of power within him seeming to unleash his full potential. With a flash of lightning, he appeared behind the green-clothed man, seemingly teleporting. The tattered sword in his hand transformed into thunder, tearing through the night sky and slicing through the green-clothed man's neck. A single strike to the throat. The green-clothed man's face changed drastically, but his expression froze in an instant. He reached up to cover his neck, where blood was gushing, and fell to the ground with Wu Nan's body. However, Sha Chen felt the sudden surge of power vanish in an instant. His legs gave way, and he fell to one knee. King's House City seemed to have been in turmoil all night. Wei Yi only managed to drift off to sleep after midnight. But he woke up on time in the morning. However, there seemed to be many patrol soldiers running by on the streets outside. It always gave people a sense of unease, as if they were about to experience the chaos of war. The guard who came to change shifts in the morning also brought the latest news. Zheng Zhi was killed. Hearing this news, Wei Yi was surprised and delighted. No wonder there was such a big commotion last night. This Shamat was really brave. He even dared to kill an official appointed by the court. Of course, Zheng Kang's death was also good news for Wei Yi. Zheng Kang was a corrupt and lawless scum who colluded with some wealthy merchants and gentry in the city, such as the Wan family and the Liu family. The Wan family was able to suppress the Meng family so badly, and even lord it over King's House City. Ultimately, it was because of Zheng Kang's protection. Now that Zheng Kang is dead, the Wan family dares not act recklessly anymore. Although it is not ruled out that another incompetent official will come. But it would take time for wealthy families like the Wan and Liu families to re-establish close ties with the new officials. That's true, but I heard the assassin has been executed and died in the county government office, said Zhang Qingsong, the head guard. Hearing this, Wei Yi's heart sank. He hadn't expected that Shamat to be dead. Had his blessing last night been ineffective? That shouldn't be the case. This assassin was truly acting in the name of justice. Yes, I wonder which hero he was, but he truly eliminated a scourge for the people. Hey, the assassin is dead, and what are those city guards still searching for? Looks like there are other accomplices. Hearing the guards chatter, Wei Yi's sinking heart suddenly rekindled with hope. Perhaps Shamat had escaped, and only his companions were killed. Wei Yi also remembered that Shamat seemed to have other companions. And since he had asked him to help forge 5 swords, there might be more than one accomplice. Come to think of it, assassinating an imperial official like that wouldn't be done alone. Zheng Kang was also closely guarded by experts. Last night, while writing his blessing, I had a fleeting glimpse of that Shamat. He must have encountered a formidable expert and suffered serious injuries. If it weren't for the power of my golden leaf, he would have been in great danger last night. I just don't know how long my blessing will last. Seriously wounded, he's unsure if he can evade the ensuing search and escape unscathed. The news of Zheng Kang's murder shocked the entire King's House City. Some were overjoyed, while others were worried. The murder of an imperial official was undoubtedly a serious crime. The entire city was under martial law, with guards searching for the assassin around the clock, focusing on suspicious locations. Those entering and leaving the city were subject to rigorous inspections before passing. Officials even posted notices announcing a curfew for a period of time, with the specific date of resumption to be announced later. This caused some of the young men, accustomed to the nightly revelry, to complain bitterly. The entire city seemed shrouded in a tense atmosphere. The next morning, Wei Yi went to the patrol camp, carrying a 3-bead sword he had forged. He wanted to use the opportunity of delivering the sword to Liu to gather information. Thanks to Shang Jiaxi and Lanauxia Waiangzubi for the 100 Kidian coins. Thank you all for your monthly votes. Chapter 64 The Wei family's flag flutters. Arriving at the patrol camp, Wei Yi met Lieutenant General Liu and presented him with the sword he had forged. Young Master Wei, you're so polite. Just send someone to let me know, and I'll come get it. Why bother delivering it in person? Liu said politely, his face full of smiles. But inwardly, he felt Wei Yi was a man of good manners, and was deeply pleased. How dare I trouble you, sir? I heard about the assassination in the city. I knew you, sir, must be busy with official duties, and I also thought the assassin must be a vicious and ruthless person. Having a good sword on hand would give you more leverage, so I hurried to send it to you. Wei Yi said with a smile. Young Master Wei, you're so thoughtful. Liu took the sword from Wei Yi's hand and drew it with anticipation. With a swish, the sword was unsheathed, its intimidating sharpness and cold light bursting out. The crisp sword clang echoed like a heavenly sound, and Liu's eyes widened. What a fine sword. What a beautiful sword. This sword is so beautiful. Liu examined the sword in his hand with excitement. His gaze was completely captivated, as if gazing upon a breathtaking beauty, his eyes sparkling. His fingers gently stroked the mirror-smooth blade, his eyes filled with admiration. The finest swords he had ever worn were merely 3-bead swords. But the one he held now, while also emblazoned with 3 beads, was a genuine 5-bead sword. Looking at this precious sword before him, his previous sword seemed like rubbish. The two were a world apart. This was truly a peerless sword. Young Master Wei's skill is truly extraordinary. This sword seems even sharper and more perfect than the 5-bead sword my father once wore. It's truly a work of art that transcends nature and perfection. I love this sword so much. Thank you, young Master Wei, for the gift. If you need any help in the future, please ask, and I will be happy to help. Li Yu said excitedly, but his eyes remained fixed on the sword in his hand, unable to let go, his joy evident. Your Excellency is too polite. I'm simply grateful for the prefect's kindness. This is just a small token of my gratitude. My second uncle was convicted and executed by the Liu family after they fabricated his confession. It was the prefect's help that saved his life. This kindness will never be forgotten by the Wei family, Wei Yi said with a bow. But his words made Li Yu's eyes flicker, and he immediately recalled the feud between the Wei and Liu families. He was naturally aware of this matter. The incident had caused quite a stir. It seemed that the Liu family still sought revenge on the Wei family. At this thought, Li Yu seemed to know what he had to do. He immediately summoned the chief of the police force and said, "Take a team and search Liu Fuge's residence. We've just received information that there may be assassins hiding in the Liu family mansion. Search carefully and thoroughly. Don't miss any corner. Do you understand?" "Yes, Your Excellency." A sly glint flashed in the chief of the police force's eyes, and he understood Li Yu's implication. He immediately accepted the order and left the patrol camp with a group of soldiers. "Young Master Wei, from now on, the safety of your Wei family is in my hands. As long as I remain in King's House City, no one will dare to touch our Wei family," Li Yu stated sternly. Wei Yi immediately bowed and said gratefully, "Thank you, Lord Li." Li Yu, worthy of being the son of an official, was quick to grasp the point. A simple reminder of an old grudge had him grasping the true meaning. A true teachable child. "Young Master Wei, there's no need to be so polite. Wow, this sword is so perfect I can't bear to use it." Li Yu's eyes lit up again as he gazed at the sword in his hand. "Use it, Lord. If it breaks, I'll forge you a new one," Wei Yi said with a smile. "How could I be so embarrassed? I'll take good care of such a fine sword." Li Yu removed the sword from his belt and hung the new one on his waist. "By the way, sir, have the assassins who assassinated County Magistrate Zheng been apprehended?" Wei Yi asked casually. "One has died, and one has escaped. We are still pursuing them. The one who escaped is quite formidable, likely at least a 5th rank cultivator. Catching him won't be easy. Furthermore, there must be some powerful force behind him, likely well prepared, making it extremely difficult for us to track him down," Li Yu said gravely. Wei Yi felt relieved at his words, but his expression remained impassive. He nodded. No wonder he dared to assassinate an imperial official. "Does he have a grudge against you, sir?" "It's probably not a vendetta. It's connected to several previous murders. The reasons are complex, and the circumstances involved are unusual. Anyway, I'm not even qualified to question him." Li Yu shook his head. "By the way, look at me. I forgot to serve you tea." Li Yu suddenly remembered that he hadn't properly entertained Wei Yi. He quickly ordered tea for Wei Yi. Wei Yi chatted with Li Yu for a while before taking his leave and leaving the patrol camp. On his way back, he deliberately had his groom take a detour to the Liu family mansion. He found the gates of the Liu family's compound wide open, and the sounds of smashing and looting rang out from within. The leader shouted, "Search thoroughly, leave no corner unturned. Do you hear me? Let's go back," Wei Yi told the groom. Over the next few days, Wei Yi rented out all of Ma Tai's former ironware shops. He also recruited the original blacksmiths, preparing to reopen. The shops that had once belonged to the Ma family also began to display the Wei family ironware shop signs and banners. This incident quickly sparked heated discussion among the city's merchants, and word spread. Everyone knew that Ma Tai had forced the Wei family to close their ironware shops. As a result, Wei Yi rose to become a 5th rank swordsmith, a master of the hardware industry, and drove the Ma family out of King's House City. The banner with the inscription Wei now hung at the entrance of the Ma family's former shop, like a victorious banner planted on the enemy's wall. It seemed so ironic, yet so proud. However, everyone knew that Ma Tai had brought this upon himself. Furthermore, through this incident, the city's merchants had witnessed Wei Yi's methods and knew he was not to be trifled with. After several days of preparation and staff recruitment, the 5 Wei family ironware shops were about to reopen. The events surrounding Zheng Kang's assassination had gradually subsided. The escaped assassin had not been found, but the case seemed to be slowly coming to an end. The county government was temporarily being managed by personnel sent from the prefectural government, pending the arrival of a new magistrate. The security at the city gates had also been relaxed slightly. Although the curfew had not yet been lifted, nighttime patrols in the city had been significantly reduced compared to the days following the incident. On this auspicious day, the Wei family ironware shops finally opened their doors. The shop entrances were decorated with lights and colorful banners, and Wei Yi even invited a lion dancer to perform. With the sound of firecrackers, the Wei family ironware shops officially opened for business. Congratulations, shopkeeper Wei. Congratulations. I wish shopkeeper Wei a prosperous business and abundant wealth. All the shopkeepers in the hardware handicraft industry came to give gifts and congratulations. Almost all the owners of nearby shops also came to show their support. There were also people from other guilds who came to congratulate him. After all, Wei Yi's status as a 5th grade swordsmith was still very dazzling. These merchants were all shrewd people, so they naturally couldn't lose their manners. Even Qiu Zuanji prepared gifts and came to congratulate him. The scene was bustling and extremely lively. Thanks to the Exploding Heaven Gang, Sweeping Monk for awarding 15,000 book coins to become the helmsman of this book. Thanks to the Digital Book Friend for awarding 300 starting coins. Thanks to the 2 book friends Shang Jiu Shan Lan Yu Zia Wu Yang Zuo to Anji Jiao for awarding 100 starting coins each, and thank you all for your monthly tickets. Chapter 65. The Wei family can't be provoked. The person most delighted by the opening of the Wei family ironware shop was naturally Wei Zhu. She had never dreamed the Wei family would achieve such success. They had opened 5 stores, the main location in the city's prime location. On this grand opening day, wealthy businessmen, previously out of their reach, flocked to offer gifts and congratulations. Wei Zhu felt truly elated. She wished Wei Tieshan were here. He would surely be incredibly happy and proud. Everyone, take a look. 20% off everything today. Wei Zhu happily greeted the customers. The shop assistants were also enthusiastically welcoming. As expected of a shop run by a swordsmith, the ironwork here is truly excellent. Yes, these scissors could even be used to cut wire. The congratulatory customers exclaimed. But their words weren't all flattery. The quality of the ironwork in the Wei family ironware shop was indeed exceptional. The blacksmiths employed in the shop were all trained by Wei Yi, and their craftsmanship was far more refined than before. In addition, Wei Yi implemented a sales dividend policy for them, spurring them to forge ironware with even greater diligence and enthusiasm. As a result, the quality of the ironware sold in this shop today is incomparable to the Ma family's ironware of the past. Even in the entire city, Wei Yi can confidently claim that his ironware is the highest quality, and its prices are comparable to those of his competitors. He doesn't aim to outdo his competitors, but rather to make Wei family ironware the industry benchmark, much like the sword with the character Wei on it. Brother Wei, today marks the opening of our new shop. Such a joyous occasion. Let's celebrate together tonight. Lansheng wine is brewed, so let's get drunk tonight. Guo Pixiu approached Wei Yi and said flatteringly, if you want my cooking, just tell me. Wei Yi said with a smile. You understand me. Guo Pixiu said with a playful smile. Order whatever you want tonight. Wei Yi added. Guo Pixiu had been instrumental in the preparations for the opening. He had arrived early this morning to help out, bringing his storytelling, singing, and dancing. And today was truly a day worth celebrating. Hearing Wei Yi's words, Guo Pixiu's face lit up with joy, and he couldn't help but swallow. Congratulations, shopkeeper Wei. Another customer approached, clasping his fists in congratulations. Thank you. Wei Yi immediately returned the greeting. But just then, there was a sudden commotion at the doorway. The crowd dispersed, many bowing. Wei Yi looked curiously, only to see Li Yu enter with a beaming smile. Sir Li, I'm sorry for not welcoming you. Wei Yi, slightly surprised, hurried to greet him. He hadn't expected Li Yu to come. Shopkeeper Wei, congratulations. I've been busy with official business, so I've only just taken the time to come and offer my congratulations. It's a small gift. I hope you'll accept it. Li Yu said with a smile. Sir Li, you're so polite. Please come upstairs. Wei Yi ushered Li Yu in and quickly ordered tea to be prepared. Seeing Wei Yi and Li Yu go upstairs, everyone in the shop couldn't help but chatter. That was Lord Li from the patrol battalion, wasn't it? Yes, the prefect's eldest son, the lieutenant general of the patrol battalion. As expected of a 5th grade swordsmith, he's truly of extraordinary stature. Even Lord Li came to congratulate him. Of course, a 5th grade swordsmith would be treated with respect even by royalty and nobles. The Wei family will be incredibly powerful in the future. Of course. Didn't you see that more than half of the city's wealthy families are here? In the tavern diagonally across from the Wei family ironware shop, once I looked at the bustling Wei family ironware shop and the flag with the Chinese character Wei fluttering in the wind. He felt a mixture of emotions and was deeply depressed. Ma Tai had stood up for him against the Wei family. Although not many people knew about this, some within the circle knew the inside story. Although it was the Ma family that had been kicked out of King's House City, it was Wanzai who was facing a blow. So, looking at the now unrivaled Wei family, he felt incredibly depressed. However, he didn't dare provoke Wei Yi. He was a 5th rank swordsmith. Even the prefect, Lord Li, treated him as a guest of honor. To trouble him would be to court disaster. The Liu family was a prime example. He had heard about the patrol battalion's raid on the Liu family, searching for assassins. The Liu family compound had been vandalized. Everyone knew the patrol battalion's purpose, a warning to the Liu family that they would protect the Wei family from now on. Now, he was truly worried. The banners of the city's restaurants and taverns would soon belong to his family. This day was busy, fulfilling, and joyful for Wei Yi. After traveling to this world, he faced family tragedies and immense external pressures. Furthermore, navigating this world of star-class divisions was difficult. Fortunately, after a period of hard work and forbearance, the clouds had finally cleared, and he could finally stand up straight and face the world. No longer needing to fear the oppression of wealthy merchants and tycoons. No longer needing to fear the wind and rain. The Wei family used to be like a small boat in the vast ocean, threatened to capsize at the slightest ripple. But now, the Wei family has finally become a mighty ship, no longer afraid of ordinary storms. This ship will carry the dreams of their entire family, sailing towards this magnificent world. Today is truly a very happy day. My Wei family ironware shop has opened, and Lansheng wine is finally available. I believe that in the future, our restaurants and wine shops will be spread across the streets and alleys of King's House City. King's House City will be ours. Wei Yi stood up, raising his glass, full of enthusiasm. Wei Zushi, Wei King, and the others had already left the table. By this time, Wei Yi, Guo Pixiu, and Meng Shulian had already finished several rounds of drinks. The wine was in high spirits, and the mood was high. Alright, brother Wei, you're right. King's House City will be ours from now on. Come on, cheers. Cheers. The three of them clinked their glasses, their faces filled with joyful smiles. Meng Shulian's delicate face was already flushed. Her eyes, slightly intoxicated, looked even more gorgeous and charming. Even her fair neck was as white as jade, tinged with rosy red. Brother Wei, I plan to wait until the city's curfew is lifted and start selling Lansheng wine at our Guo family's brothel. It's a gathering place for the city's dignitaries and scholars, and sales are usually very high. If they get a taste of Lansheng wine, they'll definitely stop wanting the one family's wine. Yes, sure. That's a great channel. Let's start with the brothel and build Lansheng wine's reputation through the patrons there. Wei Yi nodded. But right now, the restaurants in the city still follow the one family's lead. I don't think they'll dare sell our Lansheng wine, Guo Pixiu added. It doesn't matter. There's no need to make things difficult for them. It's not easy for them either. Besides, we will be preparing to build our own restaurant and wine shop next. Wei Yi said. That's right. Guo Pixiu nodded. By the way, Cheyenne Lu, you may have to work hard to find a suitable store next. We will open a restaurant first, and try to choose a store on the main street. Wei Yi said. Don't worry, I'll take care of this little thing. Guo Pixiu patted his chest and said. Come on, Cheers. Next, we have to make the one family get out of King's House City. Wei Yi raised his glass again. That's right, make the one family get out of King's House City too. The three of them drank again. Brothers, this book will be recommended by Park Sanjiang next week, so before next Thursday, I beg you to come and catch up with the latest chapters every day. Although I have read nearly 2,000 chapters so far, in order to successfully get on Sanjiang, I still hope that everyone will help and let this book go higher and further. Habian would like to thank you here. I will definitely update more after it is put on the shelves. I will repay you with more updates. Chapter 66. How can I miss the wine? Read more. The next morning, Wei Yi arrived at the brewery. He participated in the fermentation and mixing of a new batch of grains. His brewing proficiency had been steadily increasing over time, and he was now only 88.6% away from leveling up. After all, the brewing skill started at level 3, and the required proficiency for this advancement was quite high. After completing the fermentation, Wei Yi, armed with 2 bowls and a brush, entered the wine cellar. Inside were numerous large jars of wine, half a man's height. Wei Yi selected a jar of Lansheng wine, opened the lid, scooped a bowlful from it, and set it aside. He then replaced the lid and, with a delicate brush, inscribed the 4 characters increase fragrance, enhance mellowness, on the jar. As the energy of the brush and ink melted into the jar, Wei Yi's eyes lit up with anticipation. But he didn't rush to open the lid. Instead, he waited a moment before opening it again. Instantly, the rich aroma of wine filled his face, noticeably even more fragrant and alluring than before. This intensified Wei Yi's anticipation. He immediately scooped out a bowlful, then replaced the lid and sealed the jar. He sampled 2 bowls of Lansheng wine in quick succession. As expected, he wasn't disappointed. The Lansheng wine, enhanced with a masterful method to enhance its aroma and mellowness, had reached a new level of flavor and texture. Those unfamiliar with the technique might mistake it for another fine wine. This method really works. This jar has become a magical instrument for winemaking. The wine it holds will be even more fragrant and mellow, elevating it to a whole new level. From now on, the wine in this jar will be sold as a separate high-end product. Wei Yi thought to himself. I need to give it a new name. What should I call it? Wei Yi pondered. Looking at the beijiu in his white porcelain bowl, he suddenly recalled a poem by Li Bei. The fine wine of Lanling is like tulips, and the jade bowl holds an amber glow. Although Lanling was the name of a place in his past life, there was no such place in this world. Then why not call this wine Lanling liquor? Wei Yi thought to himself. Now he even had a slogan. He could use Li Bei's poem directly as the advertising slogan. Lanling wine would instantly become a household name, gaining widespread fame and adoration among scholars and poets. Even wandering warriors, while drinking with friends, would say, Lanling wine is like tulips, amber shimmering in jade bowls. And that was just a way to show off. Of course, Wei Yi had a number of poems about fine wine in his head too. For example, all the sages of old were only the drinkers leave their names. Singing to the wine, how short is life? Like the morning dew, the past days are filled with suffering. I should be filled with indignation, yet my worries are unforgettable. How can I relieve my sorrow? Only do Kang. And so on. These could all be used to promote his wine. Speaking of advertising copywriting in this era, Li Bei's poems about fine wine are absolutely top notch. Whether it's promoting the wine or creating a good atmosphere, they hit the mark. They'll definitely make his winery famous. Afterward, Wei Yi fetched pen and paper, wrote the words Lanling fine wine, and taped them to the jar. He specifically instructed Meng Shulian not to touch the jar for the time being. Meng Shulian didn't understand why Wei Yi wrote Lanling fine wine on just one jar, but she didn't question him, believing he had a good reason for doing so. Besides, the words Lanling fine wine sounded quite appealing. Over the next few days, Wei Yi visited the brewery daily to taste the Lanling wine. He discovered that the wine's aroma and flavor continued to mellow over time. As expected, the longer it was stored, the greater the effect of its aroma and mellowness. However, the effect had a limit. After the 3rd day, the improvement was generally less pronounced. So, Wei Yi reused the Lanling wine jar for 3 days. Upon expiration, He would pour the wine into another empty jar and label it Lanling Fine Wine. This cycle continued. During this time, Wei Yi also packed several small jars of Lanling wine and took them home to use as gifts and for entertaining guests. The weather was growing colder and autumn was drawing to a close. The assassination of Zheng Kang seemed to have gone unsolved, long forgotten. The new county magistrate, appointed by the imperial court, had taken office. Many wealthy merchants in the city had visited him, but without exception, they were turned away. The new magistrate's name was Wei. He was said to have been a prominent official and a virtuous official. Unfortunately, the current court lacked the capacity for such a virtuous and upright official, so he was demoted to become the county magistrate. However, this was actually a blessing for the people of Kingshao. With an honest and upright official in power, many injustices would be alleviated. Furthermore, with the arrival of the new magistrate, the city's curfew was completely lifted. Kingshao's nights had returned to their former bustle. Despite the bleak autumn scenery, the West Lake was now ablaze with lights, filled with singing and dancing, and bustling with activity. Countless scholars, dignitaries, and high-ranking officials in the city were enchanted by the dazzling, vibrant atmosphere of feasting and drinking. Unable to leave, they were captivated by the gentle tenderness of the courtesans, unable to extricate themselves. Inside Maoinfang, the city's most famous singer, Han Kaiyang, was performing. After a beautiful little tune, she sang When Will the Bright Moon Rise, a song that had recently become a hit in the red light district. This water melody tune originated with Princess Zhao Jinsi, but spread through the lips of scholars, and later by singing girls, and has now become a household name throughout the brothel. However, among these singers, the most captivating was Han Kaiyang, Maoinfang's top singer. Her voice was the clearest and most ethereal, her singing beautiful and captivating, making her the most renowned singer in Kingshao City. However, she sold her art, not her body, making her a sought-after young lady for the city's high-ranking officials. Countless patrons flocked to hear her perform every night. Even Guo Pixiu often came to support her, listening to her celestial voice. Even after the song ended, the guests were still lingering. But Han Kaiyang had already left, and the pipa music and dancers were the next stop. Guo Pixiu glanced at a young man sitting diagonally across from him and winked. The man nodded secretly, then suddenly slammed the table and said, "Although Miss Han Kaiyang's singing is beautiful, the drinks at Maoinfang are really not good. Yes, the Lansheng wine from Furenglao next door is better." The two people's loud voices immediately attracted the attention of the surrounding guests. The old steward nearby also looked over in surprise. "Hey, Steward Song, come here." The young man waved to the old steward. "What can I do for you, gentlemen?" The old steward said with a smile. "Why don't you sell Lansheng wine in your restaurant?" The young man shouted again. "Lansheng wine? This old man has never heard of it. What kind of wine is it?" The old steward was a little surprised. Their Maoinfang had only been open for less than 2 years, so naturally they didn't know about the Lansheng wine that had been popular in Kingshao City for a while in the early years. "You don't even know about Lansheng wine? Go to the Fureng Tower next door and ask around, and you'll find out that Lansheng wine is much better than your wine," the young man said again. "That's right, such moving singing and beautiful dancing, but without good wine to match, it's really a bummer," the young man next to him echoed. The two spoke loudly, and almost all the guests around could hear. Some people also started to talk about it. "Hey, isn't this the Lansheng wine that the Meng family used to sell at Xiangmen Lao?" "Yes, but the Meng family's brewing recipe is said to have been lost, and no one has been able to brew Lansheng wine for a long time. Could it be that the Meng family has started brewing again? The Meng family's restaurant is closed, so how can they brew wine?" But from what these two said, it seems that someone has brewed Lansheng wine again. "Let's go to Furenglao and try it. I heard that the Lansheng wine there is sweet and mellow, and very delicious." Guo Pixiu listened to the discussion from the side, and a smug smile curled his lips. He took a sip of the wine in his glass, frowning. It was indeed far inferior to the Lansheng wine from his own winery. "I wish you all a happy May Day holiday, but don't forget to come back every day to catch the latest chapters please." Chapter 67, Resentment, Seeking Follow-up Reading. While working on his calligraphy skills at home, Wei Yi suddenly saw numerous golden dots of light materialize from the void. Then, they merged into his body and condensed towards the ocean. It had been a long time since such a large number of golden dots had appeared. A while ago, they only appeared sporadically, but lately, they had suddenly appeared in large numbers every night. Wei Yi didn't know the source of these golden dots, but after accidentally triggering them last time, he had a rough idea of their purpose. This was something different from the aura of ink and brush. It was probably a kind of auspicious energy, capable of generating a blessing force, helping people turn misfortune into good fortune, bringing good luck and auspiciousness. However, Wei Yi wasn't completely certain of his guess. To fully understand the specific purpose of these golden dots, he needed careful research and experimentation. Now that I've condensed a few more golden leaves, I can test them on myself tomorrow to see if they work as I suspected, Wei Yi thought to himself. Then, gathering his thoughts, he returned to working on his calligraphy skills. The restaurant space had already been purchased and was currently undergoing renovations. This restaurant is located right on the street where the Wei family's ironware shop's main storefront is located. It was originally a large tea house with a large mansion behind it. However, business had been sluggish. Furthermore, the owner's family seemed to be in trouble, so they were eager to sell the tea house and mansion for cash. Wei Yi spent 1,200 taels of silver to purchase both the restaurant and the mansion outright. The 3-story building in the front would be used for the restaurant, and the mansion in the back would be used for living. Furthermore, the mansion behind the restaurant was far superior to the courtyard the Wei family currently lived in. It was large and beautiful, with a small garden, and the rooms were spacious and bright, luxuriously decorated. The location was also excellent, right in the heart of the city. The security and convenience of living were far superior to this place. It was also close to the main ironware shop, where he and Shitao could forge swords. It would also make it easier for his aunt to manage the main store and its branches. As for the current courtyard, Wei Yi had no plans to sell it. After all, this place held many family memories, so he planned to keep it as a place for him to forge swords in the future, or to live and cultivate in solitude. Late at night, inside the Liu residence, a low sob echoed from a bedroom. The weeping person was Liu Fuge's concubine, who had recently been brutally abused by him. Her body was covered in bruises. The old demon, having vented his bestiality, had returned to his room and fallen asleep. Only the bruised concubine remained, curled up on the bed, sobbing in agony. Ever since Liu Fuge's son died, the family seemed shrouded in a depressing and heavy atmosphere. Liu Fuge was narrow-minded, resentful, and cruel. His inability to avenge his son's death fueled resentment, and his temper grew even more surly. He frequently beat and scolded the servants, especially because his wives and concubines were unable to bear him children. Having abused and beaten them to vent his anger, the wives and concubines were now covered in wounds and in unbearable pain. They lived in fear and helplessness every day. The night wind rustled the branches in the courtyard, swaying like ghostly claws. A figure, like a ghost, leaped from the shadows. It easily knocked out a 9th grade warrior and several Khmer level warriors who were on night watch. The figure silently entered Liu Fuge's room, gathering blood and energy in its palm, and striking Liu Fuge in the heart. The energy transformed into dark power, piercing Liu Fuge's heart, and stopping it instantly. After killing Liu Fuge, the black-clad figure quickly departed, vanishing into the night. Suddenly, talismans suddenly appeared in 8 directions of the courtyard, emitting an eerie light. An invisible barrier seemed to coalesce from the void, enveloping the entire courtyard. Soon, several talisman-shaped paper figures flew over and attached themselves to the previously stunned warrior. They immediately rose from the ground, their eyes bloodshot and a strange red glow enveloping them. Drawing their long swords, they began slaughtering the women and servants in the mansion. Finally, they engaged the other 8th and 9th rank warriors supported by the Liu family. These individuals, controlled by the talisman-shaped paper figures, had greatly increased their strength, allowing them to hold their own against opponents of higher rank. But at that moment, a spirit-calling banner flew over, hovering in mid-air, emitting strange magical fluctuations. Suppressed by this magical power, the 8th and 9th rank warriors' blood and ki suddenly became chaotic. leaving them dizzy and dazed. In a moment of trance, their chests and necks were pierced by the sharp swords, leaving them dead beyond death. After slaughtering everyone, the warriors controlled by the paper figures committed suicide with their swords. For a moment, the entire mansion fell into a dead silence, with only a trickle of blood flowing out. The crimson blood seemed drawn by some force, transforming into a red snake that slithered forward. Finally, a massive blood-colored talisman coalesced around Liu Fuge's room. This resentment has finally matured, a sinister, hoarse voice uttered. A short figure, cloaked in a black cloak, emerged from the backyard. With a wave of his right hand, the soul-calling banner fell into his grasp. Then, with his left hand, he formed a seal. The massive talisman, formed from human blood, on the ground glowed with an eerie red light. Talismans from the 8 surrounding directions soared and converged toward the center, and the invisible barrier began to shrink. Countless resentments materialized from the air, eventually coalescing into a cloud-like, ghostly mass that surged toward Liu Fuge's room. A terrifying roar echoed, drawing all the resentment into the room. Then, a ferocious ghost with bloodshot eyes and a hideous face flew out of the room, its fangs bared and claws bared, roaring relentlessly. The face vaguely resembled Liu Fuge. However, now he had completely transformed into a vengeful ghost, his features twisted and terrifying. He kept screaming a single unclear word. Wei Yi, right, that's the hatred, that resentment. The figure beneath the black cloak grinned, his hand shifting into a magical gesture. A red character, Wei Yi, condensed and instantly sank into the ghost's body. The ghost suddenly became even more ferocious and terrifying. Ghost completed. Soul summoning banner, collect. With the man's shout, the soul summoning banner flew out. 8 talismans flew towards the ghost Liu Fuge had transformed into. Like 8 sharp claws, they grabbed him and dragged him into the soul summoning banner. Simultaneously, the banner vibrated, as if a ferocious beast were rampaging within it, and ferocious faces continuously appeared on it. Hate it. Hate the Wei family as much as you can. The more you hate, the stronger you'll become. The figure sneered. But he naturally wouldn't let this vengeful spirit persecute the Wei family. Instead, he would let it observe the Wei family's growing prosperity. This would encourage it to grow. After all, the stronger the hatred, the more resentment it accrues, and the faster the resentment grows. So, for him, the Wei family would be like a whip from now on. It would constantly spur Liu Fuge's vengeful spirit to strive for strength. Chapter 68, Good Luck, Seeking Follow-up Reading. The next day, Wei Yi was already up before dawn. It wasn't that he was getting up early, but rather that the days were getting shorter and the nights were getting longer, with the sun rising later and later. Yet, Wei Yi's biological clock remained perfectly punctual. After waking up, Wei Yi began exercising, honing his fitness skills. Due to the increased duration of his training, his proficiency had improved rapidly. He was now only 1/3 of the way to advancing. It was foreseeable that the next skill to advance would be his fitness skills. After all, his current level was relatively low, just the 2nd level. After a long workout, Wei Yi was sweating profusely, his blood boiling, and he no longer felt the chill of the early morning. Furthermore, the dopamine rush left him feeling elated and refreshed. His daily exercise was no longer a burden, but a pleasure. Just as he finished washing up and left his room, he saw several guards excitedly chatting. Guard Zhang Qingsang, upon seeing Wei Yi, ran over with a beaming smile. "Boss, good news." "What good news?" Wei Yi looked at Zhang Qingsang in surprise. "I just heard this morning that the Liu family was wiped out last night. Not a single person in the entire mansion was left alive. They were all killed," Zhang Qingsang said with a touch of excitement. It wasn't that he was gloating, but the shock of this shocking news had left him emotionally agitated. He was also aware of the entanglement between the Liu and Wei families. The annihilation of the Liu family was definitely a good thing for the Wei family. That's why he was so beaming. The whole family was wiped out? Wei Yi's eyes widened in surprise. He immediately thought it might be the work of a Shamat. After all, he had said he could help him eliminate Liu Fuge. And now that the controversy surrounding Zheng Kang's murder had subsided, he probably dared to act. But Wei Yi hadn't expected this guy to actually massacre the entire Liu family. truly eradicating the roots, leaving no future trouble. The Liu family was now completely wiped out from this world. Yet, hearing about this tragic annihilation still left Wei Yi somewhat shocked. He felt deeply moved, but it was only shock. The thought of no longer posing a threat to the Liu family, of no one seeking revenge against his uncle and his family, brought a profound sense of peace, as if a thorn in his back had been removed. If evildoers will be punished, I guess he's getting his comeuppance, Wei Yi said with a smile. This was naturally a good thing for him, and for many in the city as well. After all, Liu Fugi was a man of many evil deeds, tyrannical, and ruthless. The Meng family had suffered countless oppression and bullying from the Liu family, and there were many other families who had suffered similar fates. He had probably taken more lives than he could count on one hand. So, his murder would naturally bring joy to many, and would also bring a sigh of relief to the merchants he had oppressed. As Wei Yi had anticipated, while the news of the Liu family's annihilation caused quite a stir in the city, most people who discussed it expressed a sense of joy. It was as if the story wasn't about a tragedy, but a joyous occasion. After breakfast, Wei Yi returned to his room, ready to continue honing his calligraphy skills. But then he suddenly thought of the golden leaf, and decided to test it today. He wanted to find out what other uses it could have. Holding the brush in his hand, Wei Yi concentrated intently, silently muttering, "May I live forever." No response. "May I be healthy and immune to all poisons." Still no response. "May I have endless good fortune." This time, the golden leaves moved, instantly transforming into golden ink, dancing in his sea of consciousness. They began to converge towards the tip of the brush. Is this golden light really related to ki and luck? Wei Yi thought. He had previously suspected that the golden leaf might be connected to some auspicious aura. Now it seemed to be true. This function is quite impressive. Wei Yi knew that ki and luck, though ethereal, could invisibly ward off disaster and turn misfortune into good fortune. It could also bring opportunities and treasures. In his previous life, they were the lucky ones. In the world of cultivation, they were the children of good fortune. In the same secret realm exploration, those with great luck would receive great opportunities. They could obtain rare treasures and top-level inheritances unattainable by others. In his previous life, Wei Yi had always envied the lucky ones, but he himself was unlucky. Now, he had never imagined that he could manually increase his own luck. This was a truly remarkable skill. Try it myself, and see what kind of good fortune I could have. Wei Yi was tempted. After 2 lives as a human, he had never experienced the joy of a lucky god. He immediately wrote golden words wishing himself good luck. As he finished writing, the golden words slowly dissipated. Wei Yi felt as if a golden aura suddenly enveloped him. At the same time, he felt an inexplicable joy. He didn't know why, but he was just happy. It was as if the light around him had brightened, and the colors had become more vivid. It was as if a saturation filter had been applied to his eyes. Everything he saw was pleasing to the eye, refreshing. That feels pretty good. But how do I test my luck? Wei Yi thought about the stories about good fortune he'd read in his past life. Picking up money, gambling on stones, finding bargains at antique stalls, finding treasures in library collections, and so on. I'd love to experience all those cliched stories. Wei Yi thought to himself. After all, if those lucky breaks actually happened to me, it would be quite delightful. However, Wei Yi didn't know if gambling on stones existed in this world. After all, gambling on stones in his past life was a relatively new phenomenon. But gambling houses certainly existed. But Wei Yi had always been averse to gambling and drugs. Let's ask Zhang Qingsong and the others. If they don't have any, then we can go to the antique shops and see if any good luck can come our way. Wei Yi left the room and called Zhang Qingsong over to ask if there was any gambling on stones in the city. Zhang Qingsong looked confused, clearly having never heard of it. He probably didn't think there was such a thing in this world. So Wei Yi decided to visit an antique shop, hoping to stumble upon some rare treasure. He dressed neatly, his Yishan sword strapped to his waist. He also wore a jade pendant. This pendant was no ordinary piece of jade either. Inside, Wei Yi had inscribed the words ward off disasters and avoid misfortunes with exquisite detail. So, it could be considered a protective jade pendant. Of course, with his current aura of good fortune, he shouldn't encounter any misfortunes. But Wei Yi still had the habit of taking extra precautions. After all, he was planning to go out alone today and didn't want to take a carriage. He'd opted for walking instead, lest he hurt his foot. Wei Yi walked out of his house and headed towards the city center. On the way, he happened to pass a shop specializing in headwear. It seemed to be having a promotion. A crowd of customers, young and old, men and women, gathered at the door, making it quite lively. Wei Yi, curious, approached and saw that the shop was having a raffle. The first prize was a very expensive golden hairpin. Wei Yi, the shopkeeper, had some recollection of this shop. After all, it was a branch of their hardware handicraft business. The shopkeeper and Liu Fugi were sworn enemies. He'd probably heard about the Liu family's annihilation, so he was happy and organized this raffle. Wei Yi thought, perhaps this was fate guiding him here. Of course, he had to enter. If he won the first prize, it would be a perfect gift for his aunt or sister. They didn't need any headwear right now, but getting something for free made one happy. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69, Unlocking New Skills, Seeking Follow-up Reading. The shopkeeper placed the first prize bamboo slip into a wooden box. He then shook and shuffled the slips inside, then began lining up for a raffle. Wei Yi joined the others, but the people before him had mostly won the lowest prizes, or even nothing at all. The luckiest person only managed to secure the third place prize, a hairpin. Shopkeeper Wei Yi. Before Wei Yi's turn came, the shopkeeper of the main shop spotted him. After all, Wei Yi's appearance and presence would have been particularly striking in a crowd, and the shopkeeper knew him. It's safe to say there were few merchants in the city who didn't know him. Shopkeeper Wei Yi, thank you for visiting our shop. The shopkeeper hurried over, bowing with a broad smile. Haha, shopkeeper, you're welcome. I just happened to be passing by and saw you were having an event, so I decided to join in the fun and bring some good luck. Wei Yi said with a smile. It's Milner. Please come this way. You don't even need to queue. The shopkeeper said politely. No, it's bad form, and I'll be in line soon. Wei Yi said with a smile. Well, shopkeeper Wei Yi, I heard you're opening a restaurant? The shopkeeper asked. Yes, I am. We're renovating it now, and it should be open soon. Actually, this restaurant is a partnership between me and the Meng family. The roast chicken and Lansheng wine at the Meng family's Yangmen La are my favorites, Wei Yi said with a smile. Since you and the Meng family are opening this restaurant together, business must be booming. The roast chicken at Xiangmen La is truly amazing, but wasn't it said that the recipe for Lansheng wine was lost and no one could make it? We've found it again, and we've developed a more fragrant version. When our restaurant opens, you're welcome to come and try it. Of course, I'll definitely be there to support you. Thank you. As he spoke, Wei Yi's turn came up. Shopkeeper Wei Yi, please. Wei Yi reached into the wooden box, grabbed a random bamboo slip, and pulled it out. On it, the words first prize were clearly written. It's first prize. The servant exclaimed in surprise. Oh, as expected of shopkeeper Wei Yi, you're so lucky. You've won the first prize straight away. What a stroke of luck. Shopkeeper Sun said with a smile. Wei Yi smiled, thinking that manual luck really works. Seeing Wei Yi win the first prize, the people in the queue behind him were slightly disappointed, but also filled with envy. However, there was still a second prize to be won, so the people behind him didn't leave, but continued to queue for the prize. Wei Yi received a beautiful gold hairpin adorned with pearls and jadeite. However, it looked a bit old-fashioned, more suitable for a mature woman, so he planned to give it to his aunt. He then bought 2 more gold hairpins of different styles from the store for his sister and Meng Shulian. Shopkeeper Sun also gave Wei Yi a discount. After putting away the 3 golden hairpins, Wei Yi continued walking towards the street lined with antique shops. He turned another street and the antique shop was not far away. But just as he passed a street corner, a sudden, unholy gust of wind blew towards him. Wei Yi couldn't help but turn his head and squint, and then he felt as if a piece of paper was carried by the wind, flying directly towards him. He grabbed the paper with precision and took a closer look and was surprised. Oh my god, it's a silver note worth 100 taels. This luck is really off the charts. Wei Yi smiled, stuffed the note into his pocket, and continued walking towards the antique shop. But as he entered the shop, one Zai and two followers came running from the side street. Where did it go? Where's my silver note? What are you still standing there for? Hurry and look for it. This is weird. I clearly saw it blown here by the wind. Wei Yi walked around several antique shops and antique stalls in the market. He didn't see anything that caught his eye. He probably thought it was probably nothing special. The only prerequisite for finding a bargain was that the shops and stalls actually had good stuff. Clearly, his hopes were dashed. But since he'd come all this way, he couldn't leave empty-handed. So, he casually bought a vase, planning to put it in his new house as a decorative ornament. But to Wei Yi's surprise, he didn't find anything. Instead, he found a large orange cat. He'd met that orange cat on his way home. It threw itself into his arms, rubbing against Wei Yi's feet. It even lay flat at his feet, revealing its fluffy belly, meowing at him. It looked like it was begging for petting and cuddling, a truly charming act. Wei Yi, a self-proclaimed straight man who thought he wouldn't be attracted to cats, was completely captivated. So, he couldn't resist and petted it. And to his surprise, the cat actually became attached to him, following him all the way home. The orange cat looked so big, with such a shiny coat. Apparently, it had been raised by a wealthy family, where it had a very good diet. It was unknown which family had lost it, but judging by the dust and stains on its body, it had clearly been missing for a few days. Since it had followed him all the way back and refused to leave, Wei Yi had no choice but to, very happily, accept it. Perhaps this creature was indeed one of his good fortunes. Little one, big one, come, let me wipe your fur. Wei Yi fetched a wet wipe and wiped the stains and dust off the orange cat. Its fur instantly became brighter and more lustrous. Wei Yi held the orange cat in his arms, scratching its head and rubbing its chin. He petted the cat until it squinted its eyes and purred, looking thoroughly satisfied. But as Wei Yi was petting, a proficiency level suddenly appeared before his eyes. Oh my god, petting a cat has a proficiency level? Wei Yi was a little surprised. Then, looking at the system interface, he saw a new skill. Taming skill, unranked, 97% proficiency away from leveling up. I've actually unlocked taming. Wei Yi was pleasantly surprised. He hadn't expected petting a cat to unlock taming. But come to think of it, pets were originally born from taming. I wonder what kind of animals I can tame with this taming skill. Demonic beasts, spirit beasts, divine beasts, HMM. I wonder if a beast-eared girl counts. Wei Yi smiled meaningfully. After petting the orange cat for a while, Wei Yi went to the kitchen to get it some food. It was starving, and it ate with such relish. Perhaps it was just that orange cats naturally enjoy eating. And as the orange cat ate, Wei Yi noticed his taming skill steadily increasing. It seems that petting, feeding, and spending time with cats interacting with them all count as part of taming. So, this skill must improve very quickly. Wei Yi let the orange cat eat on its own while he went to his aunt's room. At that moment, his aunt and sister were still unpacking. Having lived here for so many years, they had accumulated a lot of things. And with my aunt's personality, she'd definitely be reluctant to throw anything away, packing everything up to take away. Wei Yi gave the golden hairpin he'd brought back to his aunt and sister. Why waste money again? Your sister and I have enough headwear, Wei Yi complained, her eyes sparkling as she gazed at the beautiful hairpin. Her eyes were filled with uncontrollable admiration and joy. The store was having a promotion, and I won it in a raffle. It didn't cost me anything, and having more headwear is perfect for switching things up, Wei Yi said with a smile. His aunt smiled knowingly at Wei Yi's words. Women naturally love these beautiful headpieces. Though she told Wei Yi not to spend money recklessly, she was delighted. Thank you, brother, I love it. Wei Yi made no secret of her joy, her pretty face beaming with delight. As the saying goes, clothes make the man, and now that her family's financial situation improved, Wei Yi's attire was much better than before. Her clothes were gorgeous, her head were exquisite, and she looked even more elegant and beautiful than the daughters of wealthy families. Of course, my sister will be the daughter of a wealthy family in the future. Thanks to Dark Knight, Starry Night and 2 digital book friends, each of whom gave 100 starting coins. Thank you all for your monthly tickets. Chapter 70. Do you want a hug? Read more. After coming out of his aunt's room, Wei Yi took the orange cat back to his room. Then he continued to work on his writing skills. The orange cat also jumped onto the desk, lying obediently beside it, basking in the sun, and watching Wei Yi write. At the same time, the proficiency of the animal taming skill was still increasing. It's just not as much as when feeding and petting the cat. But at this rate, Wei Yi felt that he would be able to be promoted to the first level in 3 days at most. In the back house of the county government office, the newly appointed county magistrate Su She was drinking tea and chatting with Du Shaoling in the hall. Although Du Shaoling was much older than Su She, they were very good friends when they were officials in the capital. Moreover, Su She admired Du Shaoling's writing style and literary talent very much, and also respected Du Shaoling's character and integrity. Now that he was demoted to King's House City, he was able to meet Du Shaoling. For him, it was the only thing worth being happy about among all the setbacks and resentments. In the West Flower Hall of the house, a delicate young girl, about 14 or 15, sat on a chair, her chin resting on her delicate hand, her rosy lips pouting, a look of displeasure on her face. Though of average build, she possessed striking beauty. Her delicate oval face, with a hint of baby fat, was charming and endearing. Her eyes were large and bright, her eyebrows long and slender, her nose small and straight, and her lips plump and tender like cherries. She was Su Zhe's daughter Su Lingyan. Ever since her family moved to King's House City, she had felt a darker gloom than ever before. Things were going wrong, and she hadn't adapted to the place. She was unfamiliar with the place, with no one she knew well, no one she could confide in. The capital city was like spring all year round, and even this season, the vegetation was lush and vibrant. This place, by contrast, was desolate and bleak, giving off a constant feeling of oppression. The food was also quite different. The restaurants and snacks she had enjoyed in the capital were not available here. Furthermore, so many people had died in this mansion. This frightened her to the point of frequent nightmares. Of course, what saddened her most, and weighed heavily on her mind, was the orange cat she'd raised for years, which had gotten lost a few days earlier. Ever since arriving here, the cat had been terrified, constantly hiding. She suspected a murder had occurred here, perhaps something sinister, and that had frightened the cat into fleeing. Otherwise, it was always well behaved, and never ran around. Orange must be missing me terribly right now. I'm so worried it's suffering. How can it survive without me? Oh, Orange, Orange, where are you? Su Lingyan muttered to herself, feeling incredibly depressed. She had wanted to ask her father to post a missing cat notice today, and then have the Yamen runners help search for it. But her father sternly refused, scolding her for being unreasonable. She didn't dare complain to her mother either. Unaccustomed to the climate, her mother had caught a cold and was bedridden. She didn't want to burden her mother with any more trouble, so she could only brood alone. Young lady, don't be sad. We can think of another way, said the maid Lu beside her. Hearing Lu's words, the young woman sat up straight, her bright eyes flickering as she suddenly said, that's right. It's better to rely on yourself than to ask others for help. If my father won't help me, I'll write the notice myself and post it in the city. Well, that's a good idea. I'll help you write it and post it together. We'll definitely find Orange, Lu said. With that, Su Lingyan took pen and ink and began writing the notice looking for the cat. Meanwhile, in Wei Yi's room, Wei King excitedly took the orange cat from Wei Yi's arms and caressed it with loving eyes. But the cat quickly broke free and finally returned to Wei Yi's arms, becoming obedient. Seeing this, Wei King had no choice but to let Wei Yi hold the cat while she petted from the side. It's so cute. Wei King's eyes seemed to melt at the orange cat, but the cat didn't even look at her. Rubbing its cheek against Wei Yi's arm, it acted like a spoiled child. Holding the orange cat, Wei Yi watched his proficiency level soar again. He marveled at how easy it was to increase his proficiency in beast taming. Compared to blacksmithing, this skill was infinitely easier. It was practically a pleasure to earn proficiency while enjoying it. Of course, increasing his proficiency in brewing was just as easy. That night, when Wei Yi went to bed, the orange cat followed him in, curled up under his arm, and snored. After a night of companionship, Wei Yi woke up the next morning to discover, to his amazement, that his beast taming skill was only 20% away from reaching the first level. That's even faster than I expected. Wei Yi thought to himself. It looked like, if he fed the orange cat a few more meals today, petted it, and played with it, he'd probably reach the first level. After breakfast, Wei Yi took the orange cat to the brewery. As long as he had this little one by his side, his proficiency would continue to increase. After arriving at the winery, Wei Yi saw Meng Shulian directing the guys to work. Her vigorous and decisive manner gave off some of the vibe of a strong woman in her previous life. However, when Meng Shulian turned around and saw Wei Yi walking in, she seemed to have transformed from a fierce female leopard into a soft and cute kitten in an instant. Mr. Wei, good morning. Meng Shulian smiled sweetly and waved her hand. Good morning, shopkeeper Meng, I brought you a gift. Wei Yi said with a smile. Is it this cat? Meng Shulian looked at the orange cat in Wei Yi's arms. She walked over with some surprise, then reached out and touched the orange cat's head. Haha, no, this is my mascot. Here, this is for you. Wei Yi took out an exquisite wooden box from his lapel and handed it to Meng Shulian. What is this? Meng Shulian took the wooden box curiously. She recognized the logo on it. It was from Sun's Hair and Noodle Shop. It's a headdress. Open it and see if you like it. Meng Shulian opened the wooden box, revealing a beautifully crafted golden hairpin. Her beautiful eyes suddenly lit up with surprise, and her fair cheeks flushed slightly. Why did you suddenly give me a gift? Meng Shulian asked shyly. I just passed by yesterday and saw the store was having a sale, so I bought one. Wei Yi smiled. Of course, I think it will look great on you. Hearing Wei Yi's words, Meng Shulian's fair cheeks flushed even more. With delight in her eyes, she shyly avoided Wei Yi's gaze. Thank you. Try it on and see. Oh, okay. Meng Shulian placed the golden hairpin in her bun. Then, slightly nervously and shyly, she looked at Wei Yi and asked, does it look good? Wei Yi looked at Meng Shulian intently and couldn't help but think of the saying a person is more beautiful than a flower. Adorned with the golden hairpin, her face became even more charming and beautiful. Yet, her delicate beauty wasn't coquettish, her beauty wasn't vulgar. Her exquisite beauty seemed to enhance the golden hairpin's beauty. Millimeters, very beautiful. This golden hairpin has been enhanced by you. Wei Yi sighed unconsciously, but his words and his ardent gaze made Meng Shulian's cheeks and neck flush. Her eyes were gentle, her lips pursed, and her chest heaved, as if dripping with water. As if sensing the ambiguity in the atmosphere, Wei Yi gave a dry laugh. He immediately turned the conversation to the orange cat in his arms, asking, do you want a hug? Hearing Wei Yi's words, Meng Shulian's shyness deepened. Her pretty face drooped completely, not daring to look him in the eye. Her delicate hands clutched the edges of her sleeves tightly. Her heart was pounding, and her body felt red and hot. After a moment's hesitation, she slowly stepped forward, opening her heart and embracing Wei Yi. This embrace stunned even Wei Yi. Did he mean to ask Meng Shulian if she wanted to hug the orange cat? Apparently, his words caused misunderstanding. However, this kind of erotic misunderstanding is still very fragrant. Sniffing the faint floral fragrance emanating from Meng Shulian's hair, it felt as if he was in a flower bed, rather than in a brewery with the pungent smell of wine lees. Meng Shulian's fragrance was like orchid, gently blowing on his collar. It was as warm as a spring breeze, dispelling the chill of late autumn. It was like a cat's paw gently scratching Wei Yi's heart. That soft touch, I don't know if it was the orange cat's body or Meng Shulian's. Thanks to Shangji Ushanlan Uzai Wuiang Zuobi for the reward of 500 starting coins. Thanks to Dark Knight Stars and Ignored Bugs for the reward of 100 starting coins each. And thank you all for your monthly tickets. Chapter 71 Fitness Skills Level 3, Seeking Follow-up Reading. Wei Yi didn't explain his true meaning, as that would have made things even more awkward. It was all a beautiful misunderstanding, after all. Besides, it was chilly in late autumn, and cuddling was warm and comfortable. It would be wonderful if he could cuddle such a sweet, soft creature every night. Wei Yi's thoughts deepened, but his sweet dream was interrupted by the orange cat. Unable to bear the pinch, the little creature shoved itself out from between them, leaping to the ground beside him, meowing in disapproval at Wei Yi. Meng Shulian, recovering from her shock, let go of Wei Yi awkwardly. She thanked him again, and ran into the winner's accounting office, head bowed. Wei Yi smiled, his eyes catching sight of Guo Pixiu standing at the doorway. His eyes were filled with gossip, and his smile was lewd. Seeing Wei Yi looking over, he slapped his forehead and said, "Oh, I just remembered I left something at home." With that, he immediately turned and walked away, joking and imitating his own thoughts. Wei Yi shrugged it off, chuckling to himself as he picked up the ginger cat and went into the wine cellar. He'd come today to replace the Lanling wine jars. Now that the 3-day deadline had expired, it was time to replace the bottles. Lansheng wine had recently gained a strong reputation at the Guo family's brothel, with sales soaring. Miao Fang had also started selling Lansheng wine, and even another brothel, Hongxia's Heo, was planning to do the same. Wei Yi believed that it wouldn't be long before Lansheng wine became a citywide phenomenon. Of course, Lansheng wine was merely a catalyst. Once their restaurant opened, and Lanling wine hit the market, it would undoubtedly become an instant hit, captivating all drinkers. After returning home from the winery, Wei Yi began forging the 5-beaded sword. The Liu family's massacre had been classified as a homicide by the government. However, since the victims weren't officials, a curfew hadn't been reimposed. Night patrols had simply been slightly increased. A curfew would affect the business of brothels, and the complex network of interests involved was complex. Therefore, curfews were naturally not enforced unless absolutely necessary. The Liu family's assets were confiscated, and the few remaining shops were gradually sold by the government. Wealthy merchants in the city rushed to buy, but only those with connections were able to secure the properties. After all, the government prices were low, and the Liu family's shops had a stable customer base and a prime location. As long as they weren't reckless, the purchases were almost guaranteed to yield profits. Wei Yi and Guo Pixiu also purchased the Liu family's 2 wine shops and a cloth shop. After all, their current financial resources were limited, and they couldn't take over all of the Liu family's businesses. But Wei Yi wasn't greedy, and his energy was limited. He didn't need to expand into so many businesses. The cloth shop was purchased purely for his aunt, who had previously said that it was her first and foremost desire to open one. As for the wine shop, it had always been part of their original plan, and Lansheng wine production was already ramping up. Through the Guo family's brothel, Miao Fang, and Hongxia's Heo, they had already gained considerable fame among scholars and dignitaries. Now, with the addition of these 2 wineries, Lansheng liquor could reach an even wider audience. After all, the demand for these liquors was immense, both among the common people and those in the martial arts world. On this day, the Wei family finally celebrated their new home. However, they chose not to hold a grand ceremony or feast. Wei Yi, for one, was too lazy. He had originally moved to a more comfortable place. A tedious ceremony, complete with banquets and entertaining guests, would be both time-consuming and cumbersome, defeating the purpose. Carriage after carriage carried the luggage to the new home. A dozen servants, under the direction of Wei Zushi, began unloading the luggage. The room, adorned with new furniture, looked brand new. Wei Yi's room was large and well lit, with a separate study and practice room adjacent to it. The servants carried Wei Yi's luggage into the room and unpacked it. Then, the maids began unloading and gradually arranging the items. Now that he'd moved into this large mansion, Wei Yi had hired a number of servants. After all, the Wei family was now considered a wealthy household, and employing a staff would greatly enhance the family's well-being and quality of life. For example, he could now get a hot bath every day without having to bother his sister or burden himself. With these servants in charge, he could save a lot of effort and time. The restaurant's renovations were almost complete. Meng Shulian had contacted the chefs and waiters from Xiangmen Lao, and was preparing to have them return to work. However, to officially open the restaurant, he still needed to obtain permission from the guild and join it. So, Guo Pixie, who had been handling this matter lately, Wei Yi first had the maid set up his desk, brushes, inkstone, and other supplies. Then he began to work on his calligraphy skills. He left all other items to the servants. The orange cat, new to its new surroundings, seemed a little reserved. Although curious about its new territory and looked around, it didn't dare explore, remaining huddled at Wei Yi's feet. A few days ago, Wei Yi's beast taming skill successfully advanced to the first level. He also acquired a new beast taming skill called obedience. With this skill, he could easily tame beasts, making them clearly understand and obey his commands. Of course, Wei Yi knew this was just the beginning. He speculated that, with further development, this beast taming skill would undoubtedly yield some kind of beast controlling ability. Since demand for the 5-bead jewel sword was low, Wei Yi had significantly reduced his sword forging time. He dedicated most of his time to developing his fitness and calligraphy skills. His calligraphy skill was now only 19% away from advancing to the next level. His fitness skill also reached the 3rd level yesterday. This upgrade brought Wei Yi's body a remarkable transformation, granting him a masculine physique. His constitution was incredibly yang and strong, overflowing with masculine energy, like a blazing fire or the bright sun, capable of resisting cold and deterring evil spirits. Ordinary ghosts would shy away from him. Furthermore, Wei Yi had gained the power of the 3 tripods. This was almost on par with the strength of an entry-level warrior. Although devoid of blood and ki, he possessed the strength of an entry-level warrior solely through muscle power. This was quite abnormal. In other words, when a warrior's blood and ki were insufficient, their power would absolutely crush their opponent. Furthermore, despite the immense strength of his muscles, the lines of his body remained evenly proportioned and coordinated. There was no sense of knotted muscles, nor were there those rough rock-like muscles. Yet, every muscle in his body contained immense power. Even every muscle cell could be perfectly mobilized, unleashing the full force of his body. Chapter 72. The prince has a good plan, seeking follow-up reading. The One Family Mansion. Dad, are you really allowing Xiang Manlao to rejoin the guild? Wan Zai said angrily. What else? Waiting for them to beg Lord Li to come and talk to me? Wan Yinchang said calmly while writing calligraphy. But Dad, if Xiang Manlao reopens, all our previous efforts will be in vain. My One family will no longer have any prestige in this restaurant guild. You think I don't know? The Guo family alone is already difficult to deal with. Now Wei Yi has risen rapidly to become a 5th rank swordsmith and has established ties to the Li family. We can't afford to provoke them right now. What's more, the new county magistrate is a stubborn person. Now that we don't have the county magistrate as our strong support, we can't act rashly. We can only endure it for a while. Alas, I understand. I just can't stand their smugness. Wan Zai looked depressed. Can't you change your temper? How can you achieve anything great if you're so impatient? Even if their restaurant opens, what good will it do? Can it guarantee safety? If something goes wrong, they'll still have to close. Besides, don't we have the crown prince's supporters? Why rush? We can't defeat the Guo and Wei families, so how can the Zhao family defeat ordinary people like them? Wan Yinchang said in a deep voice. The brush in his hand also wrote the 4 characters Yun Chao Wei's Eduo management strategy. I understand. Wan Zai nodded, a sly smile curling his lips. But just then, a servant approached, bowed, and said, Sir, the Crown Prince has sent someone to invite you to his residence for a conversation. I see. Wan Zai's eyes rolled. See. Someone's getting impatient before us. Go ahead and say what needs to be said, Wan Yinchang said with a smile. Then he picked up the brush and wrote 4 more characters. Yun Chao Wei's Eduo management strategy. Wan Zai boarded a carriage and arrived at Zhao Hanking's residence. At this moment, Zhao Hanking was sipping tea in the hall. Incense curled from the incense burner, emitting a captivating fragrance. Prince. Wan Zai bowed as he entered the hall. Well, please take a seat, Zhao Hanking said. But the maid beside him didn't take the initiative to pour tea for Wan Zai. When did you get the Lansheng wine recipe? Why didn't you tell me? Even if I'm not involved in the management, but when the Lansheng wine is on the market, at least send me a jar to try it. You can't let me drink it alone in a brothel. Zhao Hanking took a sip of tea and said expressionlessly. Hearing Zhao Hanking's words, Wanzai immediately stood up and bowed. I'm so sorry, Prince. This Lansheng wine is not brewed by our winery. Zhao Hanking continued to drink his tea expressionlessly. He knew it wasn't brewed by the Wan family winery. He just said that deliberately. The Meng family lied, saying the recipe was lost. It wasn't. Meng Shulian actually teamed up with Guo Pixio and Wei Yi to open a distillery, and this Lansheng wine was brewed there. Wanzai continued. He was naturally embarrassed about the dirty deeds the Wan family had done to the Meng family, and he couldn't bring himself to tell Zhao Hanking about them. Wei Yi, the 5th rank swordsmith. Zhao Hanking was slightly surprised. Although he had heard about the reappearance of the Meng family's Lansheng wine, he hadn't really known Guo Pixio and Wei Yi were behind it. Yes, that's him. I didn't expect them to work together. Wanzai continued. Zhao Hanking nodded non-committally, his expression still expressionless. Although Zhao Hanking was a bastard, barred from the throne, and lacking martial arts skills, or commanding troops in battle, he had no hope of ever receiving a rank or nobility. But he knew clearly what he needed to rely on for his future business. Although he held no title, his status as a member of the Zhao family allowed him to thrive among merchants. This was why he often mingled with the sons of the city's wealthy merchants and gentry. He now held shares in the city's liquor stores and restaurants, as well as some pawn shops and jewelry shops. The liquor business, in particular, was his most profitable business. Every year, he received dividends of over 10,000 taels of silver from the Wanjia liquor store. The money he earned from these shares allowed him to live a comfortable life, even wealthier than his brothers. Although such matters couldn't be publicly displayed, as they would damage Prince Jingan's reputation, the Zhao family turned a blind eye. After all, he was self-reliant, and the women and elderly members of the family had also accepted Zhao Hanking's gifts and gifts. That Guo Pixio is a complete fool. When their winery first opened, I hinted at some things to warn him, but he remained stubborn and insisted on opening a winery, stealing our business. As the crown prince knows, the Guo family is quite powerful, and Wei Yi, a 5th rank swordsmith, is someone the Wan family can't afford to offend. This is why I'm deeply troubled. Does the crown prince have any good ideas? We can't just let them continue to seize our market. Wanzai clasped his fists. Okay, I understand. I'll find a way to deal with this. Zhao Hanking said calmly. Oh, okay. Wanzai was puzzled. Why didn't Zhao Hanking show any anger after hearing this? This calmness surprised him. But he felt that, since Zhao Hanking already knew about this, he wouldn't let it go. After all, it affected his own interests. Perhaps he already had a plan in mind, which was why he was so nonchalant. Yeah, that must be the case. In short, if he were willing to take action, Lansheng wine would surely be nipped in the bud. Shortly after Wanzai left, Zhao Hanking summoned another servant and said, "Go and ask Guo Pixio to come over, and tell him I want to try some Lansheng wine." At the Wei residence, Wei Yi bound his recently completed novel into a volume, and placed it on his bookshelf. He then took a piece of scroll-shaped rice paper, spread it flat on the desk, and weighed down the ends with a ruler. He planned to write more poems about fine wine and delicious food. He would then frame them, and hang them in the restaurant as decoration or advertising copy. His calligraphy was now truly a masterpiece. Paired with the famous poems, they would complement each other beautifully. Hanging in the restaurant would be a truly impressive sight. Of course, in addition to calligraphy, he also planned to create paintings inspired by beautiful poetry. These poems, calligraphy, and paintings would surely attract countless literati and scholars. It would also become a major attraction for the restaurant, a topic of conversation. After all, King's House City is awash in literary talent these days, and there are many people who aspire to be refined. These poems could then be spread through the mouths of literati, creating the ultimate advertising effect. He wanted Xiangmen Lao to become a unique institution in King's House City, even a tourist attraction for the literati and poets of the Great Yan dynasty. As Wei Yi was writing, Wei King walked in holding a ginger cat. "Brother, this ginger cat just ran outside. I brought it back." Wei King was stunned before she could finish her words. She saw a ginger cat lying at Wei Yi's feet. She looked at the cat in her arms with a look of surprise, and it suddenly looked a little disheveled. Chapter 73, The Situation in the Court, Seeking Follow-up reading. Wei Yi also looked at the orange cat in Wei King's arms in surprise, and then lowered his head to look at the orange cat lying at his feet. He was stunned for a moment. From the size and appearance of the orange cat, it was really hard to tell them apart from his own orange cat. If you didn't look carefully, you would really think they were the same cat. This orange cat is at home? Wei King was a little amused. Where did you pick it up from? Wei Yi was also a little surprised. I just went out for a while, and when I came back I saw it at the door of our house. I thought our orange cat had run away. Wei King explained. He couldn't help but look at the well-behaved big orange cat in his arms again. I was wondering why it was so obedient today, and it actually came to let me hold it. It turns out they are not the same one. Don't say, they look really alike. Could they be brothers who have been separated for many years? Wei Yi looked carefully at the orange cat in Wei King's arms, and said with a smile. It's strange, though. I just went out, and saw more than one orange cat on the road. When did this city start to have so many orange cats? Wei King asked, somewhat puzzled. Is it possible that keeping orange cats is becoming a trend in King's House City? Wei Yi was also somewhat amused. Could it be that his aura of good fortune had disturbed the orange cat's nest? Could it be that his first private army was a cat army? Then, what should I do with this one? Why not adopt it too? Wei King said, looking at the orange cat in her arms. Sure, since you've brought it home, let's keep it. It's so willing to stay with you, so you can take care of it from now on. Wei Yi said with a smile. Yeah, okay. Wei King smiled broadly, then ran out with the orange cat in her arms. But Wei Yi couldn't help but ponder Wei King's words. The sudden appearance of so many orange cats was definitely not normal. But he couldn't figure it out, so he stopped thinking about it and returned to his painting. Meanwhile, Guo Pixiu, who was supervising the restaurant, also received the news from the mansion's housekeeper. The crown prince wants some Lansheng wine. Guo Pixiu was a little surprised. He knew Zhao Hanking wasn't a wine lover. But then he realized what was happening and slapped his forehead. Look how busy I was. I even forgot to send some Lansheng wine to the crown prince. The crown prince is really picking on me. Let's start the fun, prepare the carriage, and go to the crown prince's residence. Guo Pixiu said. Guo Pixiu didn't go to the winery to get wine. After all, it was a bit out of the way, and going around it would waste time. However, the two new wine shops they had bought also had Lansheng wine, and they were just down the road. So Guo Pixiu went to the wine shops and picked up a few jars of wine. He happened to run into Du Shaoling, who had also bought 2 jars of wine from the wine shops and was leaving. Guo Pixiu went to the crown prince's residence, while Du Shaoling took the carriage to the county government office. Once there, Guo Pixiu politely apologized, explaining why he hadn't sent Lansheng wine to the crown prince earlier. Then he began another round of flattery and fawning. But Zhao Hanking interrupted him mid-sentence. Don't be nervous. I don't mean to blame you. I really don't like drinking much, but I heard Lansheng wine is back on the market, and it's from your distillery, so I asked you to send some over. It just so happens that I'm going back to the palace tonight to visit my grandfather, who particularly enjoys fine wine, so I thought I'd bring him some to try. Zhao Hanking said with a smile. So you're giving it to the old prince? I'm honored. If he likes it, just let me know. I'll have as much as you want, Guo Pixiu said with a smile. Zhao Hanking smiled and then said, by the way, stay for dinner. You'd be happy to tell me about your distillery. In the East Flower Hall of the county government's backyard, Du Shaoling and Su Zhe were drinking at the same table. The dishes on the table were simple home-cooked fare. I didn't expect King's House City to have such fine wine. It's delicious. It's like drinking nectar with a lingering aftertaste, Su Zhe said with a look of satisfaction. Ever since Su She arrived in King's House City, Du Shaoling had been visiting every few days. They drank and chatted, relieving their respective depressions, and airing their worries and dissatisfactions with the current court. It was a kind of camaraderie between two brothers in distress. Yes, this is such a fine wine. I've only ever tasted it in the capital. I never thought I could enjoy it in King's House City now. What a blessing. Du Shaoling said, beaming as he gazed at the wine in his glass. Brother Du, let me toast you with another glass. Su She and Du Shaoling each took another small drink. From fine wine came the conversation to poetry, finally mentioning the calligraphy Du Shaoling had given him last time. Though it contained only 2 lines, its majestic and heroic spirit deeply moved Su She and inspired him. There will come a time when I will ride the wind and waves and set sail to cross the vast ocean. Brother Du's poetic talent truly astounds me, and I admire you. These 2 lines also inspire me. Su She said excitedly. I'm truly ashamed. Those 2 lines of poetry weren't mine. I'm simply offering them as a token of my appreciation, hoping they might inspire you. Du Shaoling said shamefacedly. Oh, it wasn't written by Brother Du. Who then? Su She was surprised. Unfortunately, I still don't know who wrote them. Du Shaoling explained the origins of the poems. That's why I've always considered him a soulmate and a mentor, Du Shaoling said earnestly. How could such a masterpiece be lost in the marketplace? What a pity. Alas. Su She couldn't help but think of himself and Du Shaoling. He thought of the current court. His Majesty, obsessed with cultivating immortality and the Wei, had established the Shinran sect as the state religion, bestowing important positions upon its members. Currently, over half of the officials in the court were members of the Shinran sect. The rest were mostly opportunists, sycophants seeking to curry favor with the powerful. The demons of the Shinran sect were disrupting the government, bringing chaos to the court. Yet, His Majesty turned a deaf ear, allowing the Shinran cult to suppress talented individuals and exclude dissidents. Those of my integrity, unwilling to curry favor with the powerful and even less willing to associate with treacherous individuals, would only be demoted. If this continued, the court of the Great Yan dynasty would soon become the seat of the Shinran cult. Master. Lu's voice brought Su Zhe back to reality. Master, the young lady still refuses to eat. Lu said, a look of worry from the doorway. If she doesn't eat, she'll starve. She's being unreasonable all day. Su Zhe said angrily. Thinking of his own wayward daughter, he was furious. Ever since he arrived in King's House City as an official, many merchants and wealthy people had sought to curry favor with him, but he had rejected their gifts and offers. Unexpectedly, Su Lingyan's missing cat notice had attracted the flies again. Originally, posting a missing cat notice wasn't a big deal. However, the address written on it was the county government office, and the name was Su Lingyan. The person with ulterior motives immediately knew that his daughter's cat was missing. How could those people let go of such a great opportunity to curry favor with him? So during this period, more than 10 to 20 cats were sent to the county government office every day. Su Zhe was almost mad at himself. He could only scold those people and drive them all away. Then he reprimanded Su Lingyan and ordered all the notices for finding cats to be removed. But despite this, there were still people who came to curry favor with him under the banner of sending cats, which annoyed him greatly. Thanks to Zhang Shazia who juice for the reward of 500 starting coins. Thanks to Digital Book Friends for the reward of 100 starting coins. And thanks to everyone for the monthly tickets. Chapter 74 Restaurant Opening, Seeking Follow-up Reading. Time passed, and the restaurant's renovations were finally complete. Meng Shulian also took a break from the winery and devoted herself to the restaurant's preparations. After all, she had the most experience running a restaurant. Wei Yi, on the other hand, was fully responsible for the menu and training the kitchen staff. He prepared numerous sauces and taught the chefs how to use them. He then had them sample each dish, practicing repeatedly until the taste satisfied him. Thanks to Wei Yi's guidance and training, the chef's skills improved dramatically, and they had mastered the use of the sauces. The restaurant's new menu was finally finalized, featuring 66 dishes. This period of time kept Wei Yi incredibly busy, even forcing him to reduce his time working on his writing and fitness skills. However, his cooking skills improved significantly, and he was now only 1/3 away from upgrading. Time hadn't been wasted, it was simply a matter of gaining while gaining. The restaurant's preparations were nearing completion. A colorful pavilion and gate had been erected in front of the entrance, adorned with lights and streamers, creating a stunning display. Passers-by would stare curiously, but the signboard was covered with red cloth, so they had no idea what kind of business was opening there, and their curiosity was palpable. However, the city's merchants were all aware that Xiang Manlao was about to reopen. They had all received invitations to the grand opening, with the exception of the one family. That morning, a light snowfall fell on Qingzhou City, but the flakes melted soon after landing, leaving the ground damp. In the courtyard behind the restaurant, Wei Yi and Wei King were feeding a large group of cats. At a glance, there were about 30 or 40 cats, most of them orange. It was quite a spectacle. However, these cats had been tamed by Wei Yi to be incredibly obedient. They all behaved in an orderly manner, never fighting or fighting with one another. Ever since Wei King had picked up an orange cat that day, Wei Yi had been pleasantly surprised to discover that his proficiency had doubled when he fed and played with 2 cats simultaneously. Proficiency in animal taming increased in direct proportion to the number of animals tamed. In other words, the more animals one raises at once, the faster one's proficiency level increases. Later, Wei Yi noticed that a sudden influx of stray cats seemed to be appearing in the city. These cats, unlike those found outside, were incredibly docile. So, Wei Yi began adopting them one by one. After all, the weather was getting colder, and Wei Yi couldn't bear to see those little creatures starving and freezing. Furthermore, adopting them would help him quickly improve his proficiency level, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Wei King followed suit, bringing back a cat or 2 whenever she returned from her outings. This is how their home now boasts such a magnificent spectacle. Wei Yi never imagined that the first faction he would establish would be a cat army. However, with the help of these cats, Wei Yi's animal taming skill leveled up to levels during this time, now reaching level 3. After his first level up, his animal taming skills were further enhanced. He could even discern an animal's emotions and general intentions through its behavior. Furthermore, he gained a special affinity for animals. This gave him a strong affinity with animals, making them willing to approach him and trust him. After his second level up, Wei Yi even gained a magical power called beast taming. This power allowed him to control the behavior of animals, akin to mind control, and ultimately manipulate them. Wei Yi hadn't expected this magical power to emerge after reaching the 3rd level of his beast taming skill. Truly a case of the latecomer gaining the upper hand. The cold wind chilled his entire body, but Wei Yi, with his masculine physique, was completely unfazed by the chill. Even wearing light clothing, he felt no chill at all. It felt as if a small furnace was burning within him. The restaurant's opening was set for tomorrow, and the invitations had already been sent out. The staff were still making final preparations. Meng Shulian arrived early in the morning and began meticulously going over every detail. She also repeatedly confirmed with the staff the procedures for tomorrow's opening. Soon after, Guo Pixiu arrived, bringing a shipment of Lansheng and Lanling wines from the winery. The restaurant has 3 floors, but only 2 are currently open. The first floor houses the large dining area, while the second floor houses the private rooms. The walls of the restaurant are adorned with calligraphy and paintings, all naturally created by Wei Yi. To adapt the poems to this world, Wei Yi deliberately localized some of the place names and allusions in the poems. Fortunately, many place names in the Great Yan dynasty bear resemblance to those in his previous life. There are even many similarities in some allusions and legends. Therefore, modifying the poems is not difficult, and the original artistic conception won't be lost. Among these poems, of course, is the poem When Will the Bright Moon Appear? Guo Pixiu had also seen it, but he didn't think much of it. After all, it was so popular that Wei Yi had heard of it, so it wasn't surprising. Furthermore, his literary knowledge was limited, so he didn't dare discuss the poems with Wei Yi. He simply thought they were excellent. As for who wrote them, he didn't care and didn't ask. Besides, he had been incredibly busy lately. After another busy day, the preparations for the restaurant's opening were finally complete. That night, Meng Shulian was so excited she could barely sleep. Guo Pixiu continued to spread the word in the brothel about Xiang Manlao's upcoming opening. Meanwhile, Wei Yi, the restaurant's true boss, slept soundly. After a long night, a bright, sunny morning finally arrived, marking the opening of Xiang Manlao. The sun was exceptionally bright, the sky azure and cloudless, and the temperature was much higher than in previous days. It felt incredibly comfortable. After the hour of Chen, the restaurant's entrance erupted in the clamor of gongs and drums, along with lion dances and acrobatics. The atmosphere was bustling, attracting many onlookers. The waiters at the entrance kept announcing the restaurant's grand opening and introducing the restaurant's specialties and drinks. Our restaurant's menu features 66 specialties from all corners of the globe. They're authentic and offer a rich variety. Come and try them. Come and see our drinks. Lansheng wine is a fine wine, delicious and affordable. And with our opening today, we are also releasing a new wine called Lanling Fine Wine. It's even more fragrant than Lansheng wine, so you should definitely try it. The onlookers chattered as the waiters called out, "I've tried this Mengjie Lansheng wine before. It's truly excellent. They've even released a new wine. I can try it later. Lanling Fine Wine. I've never heard of it before. Wow, this restaurant has a truly diverse menu. Yes, there are many dishes I've never heard of. We are in for a treat today," the crowd murmured. Just then, Guo Pixiu approached. His elegant demeanor and dignified expression resembled a high-spirited scholar. He then exclaimed with great emotion, "The saying Lanling wine is like tulips, amber shimmering in a jade bowl, refers to our restaurant's fine Lanling wine." Wei Yi had specifically taught him these lines of poetry, asking him to promote Lanling wine. What a wonderful poem. Hearing these lines makes me quite excited for this Lanling wine. Yes, Lanling wine is like tulips, amber shimmering in a jade bowl. Millimeters. These two lines make me smell the aroma of wine and see the clear, jade-like wine, a scholar in the crowd said excitedly. Who wrote these two lines? A shopkeeper, Wei, wrote them in commemoration of Lanling wine. If you're interested, please remember to try our Lanling wine when our restaurant opens. Guo Pixiu said with a smile. He thought to himself that these scholars had a good eye. They knew I didn't write these poems. We must try it. Just because of these two lines of poetry, we must try this Lanling wine. That's right, that's right. I hope this wine can be as beautiful as these two lines of poetry. Chapter 75. Experts among the people. In the private room in the southwest corner of the Wanjia restaurant, Wang Yancheng and his son, as well as several restaurant owners who were in cahoots with the Wan family, were gathered together to discuss the opening of Xiangmen Lao. At this time, Wang Yancheng and Wan Zai were standing at the window, looking at the lively scene in front of Xiangmen Lao with cold eyes. From this angle, Xiangmen Lao could be seen very clearly. It's really lively, Wang Yancheng said with a gloomy face. Who would have thought that the Meng family could make a comeback? They really underestimated Meng Shulian. The owner of Pan Lao said with a gloomy face. What can I say? Don't offend women easily, especially beautiful women. You never know when they will use men to turn things around, said another short and fat middle-aged man. Yeah, and she's got two men on her at once. Who can compare to that? Humph, 66 dishes. I think they are just bragging. The dishes in this restaurant are not about quantity, but quality. What's the use of having so many? I heard that they are going to launch a new wine today, called Lanling wine. Yes, that Wei Yi even wrote a poem to promote that Lanling wine. This Wei Yi is worthy of being a scholar. He can write a poem just for selling wine. How can he read more? Isn't it just a poem? Later we will invite a literati to write a poem for our wine. Shopkeeper 1, are we really not going to do anything? We have to make some noise, otherwise the people in the guild will really think we are afraid of them. Yeah, Xiangmen Lao sent the invitation to our restaurant. It's obviously a provocation. The shopkeepers of Wang Lao, Zhangji, and Jixiang Lao have all gone. Shopkeeper 1, if you don't show some attitude, the people in this restaurant guild will probably have to choose a new owner. Several restaurant owners complained in dissatisfaction. Hearing their words, Wang Yancheng's face darkened even more. He knew what they were saying was true. Ever since he agreed to Xiangmen Lao's re-entry into the guild, he had become a laughingstock. His prestige within the guild had also been greatly affected. Some restaurant owners now looked down on him and even wanted to sell Lansheng wine. Even if some appeared polite to him, they were actually waiting and watching. This included the shopkeepers present. If he didn't show some attitude and take some action today, it would be a declaration of complete surrender. The business world is like a battlefield where conflicts of interest are a life or death struggle. Furthermore, Xiangmen Lao and the Wan family were sworn enemies. Their grievances were irreconcilable. Even if he did nothing today, they would receive no gratitude, much less any mercy. He would only think that he was a coward. Although he was indeed a little wary of Wei Yi's identity and connections, he couldn't completely defeat Xiangman Lao with one blow. But this didn't mean that he would surrender. It didn't mean that he was really afraid of Wei Yi and the Guo family. So he had to do something today. He couldn't let him open the business so smoothly and gloriously. At least he had to prove his attitude. He also had to prove that he still had prestige in Kingshao City. Otherwise, even the shopkeepers present here would consider changing sides. By then, he was afraid that he would completely lose his power. He would no longer be able to control Xiangman Lao. Such a lively scene. Of course we can't miss it. Zai, ask a few people to join in the fun. Wang Yinchang said coldly. Dad, is it really okay that Lieutenant General Li will probably go to Xiangman Lao to congratulate him? Wan Zai suddenly felt a little scared. It's not like they are going to kill or burn anything, so what's there to be afraid of? It's perfectly normal for the drunkards to get into a fight, draw swords, and scare off the customers. At most, we'll just have to compensate them for their losses, Wang Yinchang said. I understand, son. But if you want to hire someone to cause trouble at Xiangman Lao these days, the reward will probably be several times higher. Wan Zai said. Yes, shopkeepers, the money. Wang Yinchang suddenly looked at the crowd. We'll pay. The shopkeeper of Pan Lao was the first to raise his hand. That's right, shopkeeper 1 is doing the work, so naturally, we'll pay. The other shopkeepers nodded in agreement. The crowd gathered in front of Xiangman Lao, creating a bustling atmosphere. While most were simply there to join in the fun, there were also quite a few diners who had come to try something new. Of course, there were also many regular customers of Xiangman Lao who had been invited. Soon, shopkeepers from various major businesses who had received invitations also began to arrive. Most of them brought gifts, such as ornaments meant to attract wealth and fortune, wood and jade carvings, or various congratulatory and decorative plaques. With the deafening roar of firecrackers, the red cloth was lifted, and the Xiangman Lao sign appeared. The restaurant officially opened, and Wei Yi, Meng Shulian, and a group of waiters ushered the guests in. Those bringing gifts were invited to the private rooms upstairs. Ordinary guests were seated on the ground floor, ready to try the new delicacies. Many curious people wandered around, especially the literati, who were immediately drawn to the calligraphy and paintings on the surrounding walls. But when they saw the poetry, their eyes lit up with astonishment. The autumn wind blows the waves of West Lake, and Huai-jun's hair turns white overnight. After drunkenness, I forget the skies under the water, my dreams fill the boat, overshadowing the stars. Lang Ling's fine wine, like tulips, gleams in a jade bowl. If the host can intoxicate the guest, they forget where they are. A pot of wine among the flowers, drinking alone, without a companion. I raise my cup to the bright moon, and my shadow, and I become 3. The moon knows no drink, and my shadow merely follows me. For now, I'll accompany the moon and my shadow, enjoying myself while spring lasts. I sing, the moon lingers, I dance, my shadow scattered. We enjoy each other when sober, but we part ways when drunk. Forever bound in a heartless journey, meeting again in the distant Milky Way. Each poem captivated the present literati. Their gazes blazed, their expressions filled with excitement, as if they had discovered a treasure. Besides complete poems, there were also numerous calligraphy scrolls containing only 2 lines. There will be a time to ride the wind and waves, hoist the sails to cross the vast ocean, enjoy life to the fullest, don't let a golden cup face the moon in vain. Given my talents, they will be useful. Even if I spend my fortune, I will return. Throughout history, sages and wise men have all been lonely. Only drinkers leave their names behind and joy. A glass of wine in life, why bother with a name that will live on forever? Although each of these scrolls contained only 2 lines of poetry, they struck a chord like thunder, resonating deeply and moving them deeply. They marveled at the artist's boldness and generosity, deeply inspiring. Their hearts seemed to surge with emotions too strong to be tamed. They longed to raise a glass of wine and join the poet in expressing their passionate feelings. Equally astonishing was the majestic calligraphy. The ink strokes resembled the movements of dragons and snakes, the soaring of phoenixes, a breathtaking sight. The paintings were equally magnificent, a natural and effortless masterpiece, a testament to the artistry of master. Gazing at the calligraphy and paintings, the scholars present seemed to forget they were in the bustling restaurant. They felt as if they were in a forest of ink, a gathering place of refined scholars. For a moment, they lingered in the poetry and calligraphy, lost in the poetic and picturesque beauty, unable to extricate themselves. They could not help but sigh in admiration. Their expressions mirrored the artistic conception of the poems and paintings, sometimes generous, sometimes passionate, sometimes heroic, sometimes melancholy. Even more astonishing was the fact that all the calligraphy and paintings bore the same signature, Wei Yi. Could this be the writing of shopkeeper Wei Yi? These scholars were astonished. They called over the waiter and asked about it. Sure enough, it was from Wei Yi. This shocked the scholars even more. Shopkeeper Wei Yi, he actually has such a talent for writing. It's incredible. He can forge swords and wield a pen. Truly amazing. Could these poems also be his? Of course, otherwise, such brilliant and powerful verses, like strokes of genius, would be impossible for us to have never seen or heard of before. Yes, I didn't expect shopkeeper Wei Yi to be a literary master. The scholars suddenly felt a deep respect for Wei Yi. This was the true master among the common people. They considered themselves talented and eloquent, but compared to Wei Yi, they realized their difference. Such a talent, yet he kept a low profile, truly impressed them. However, among the crowd present, several young scholars, upon seeing the poems, were struck by something, and immediately left the restaurant. They then headed towards King Feng Academy. P.S. Opening a restaurant isn't about going commercial. Restaurants are the social world, connecting people with the ways of the world. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.